Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Rossi, Chairman of the Clinton Aquifer Protection Agency for this meeting. I'd like to call this regular quarterly meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Michael Rossi,
Here.
Bo Clark,
Here.
Ellen Dahlgren,
Here.
Robert Corson,
Here.
Michael Florio,
Here.
Chinzia Lettieri, Jay Mandel, Zach Plurd, Dylan Walter, Andrew Brandy, Susan Marcus, here, Brian Pellegrini,
Here.
Okay, I would like to speak Susan for Cynthia, and I'll see Brian for Dylan. We have a quorum. The only item on the agenda tonight is the review and approval of the April 13, 2026 minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted. Second it.
Seconded from Mike. Thank you. Was there any discussion or corrections people saw? Hearing none, I would ask all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, abstaining?
Staying on the side.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Okay, it passes. Um, Next item, old business. We don't have any old business for tonight. No new business for tonight, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion for it. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you.
All right, one meeting down.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Rossi, Chairman of the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like to call this regular meeting to order at 7 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Michael Rossi,
Here.
Bo Clark,
Here.
Ellen Dahlgren,
Here.
Robert Corson,
Here.
Michael Florio,
Here.
Chinzia Lettieri, here, Jay Mandel,
Here.
Zach Plurd,
Here.
Dylan Walter,
Here.
Andrew Brandy, Susan Marcus, here, Brian Pellegrini.
Here.
Okay, all the regular members are here, so I can't see any alternate. We have a quorum. First, thing under chair's comments, I want to welcome Bob Corson back to the commission. Nice to have you back. Thank you for coming. Let's go to minutes. Review and approval of the June 8th, 2026 meeting minutes. Were there any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I know, as for their facilities receiving the cover material are inspected, approved, and noted that each load delivered to the site will also be inspected and approved. I don't know that I noted that because how would I know? So I don't know if that word noted there.
Okay, listen to the recording and
Yeah.
find the right word, or then just change
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
To either inquired or whatever the word.
I mean, maybe I did some. But I have no.
Okay, any other, corrections? Okay. All those, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. With the one inquiry.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. New business, we amazingly don't have new business again. I know. Yeah. Public hearing. So, is there a notice of public hearing to read?
Yes. The town of Clinton. Planning hold a hearing, I like to went to 24 East Main Street. sponsored. Doing that, then it's section to sections 21 and 33. On the addition of a new section 3.1. TV 26 site plan for the cap and closure of the Clinton landfill. Pursuing this of the evaluation 0 Old Nod Road, map 4P, applicant Lorero Engineering Associates. At set hearing, officers will have the right to application and any correspondence are available for public inspection. And they participate, but that makes it 0. My office kind of threatening and the commission.
Thank you. Before we, jump into the public hearing, I want to make sure everybody understands the, rules and the process for a public hearing. We will start each public hearing with a presentation from the applicant. I will then allow the applicant. We will then favor the application to testify. A large number of people that may want to talk, I would ask if you are just going to repeat something somebody's already said, go ahead and say, I agree with what so-and-so said, and allow the meeting on. There's no reason to replicate it. After the public speaks, I will allow follow-up questions from the commission and response from the applicant. Okay. With all of that,
I'd like to say at the outset that one of the documents presented was prepared by an engineering company called Capres and McKee, or the successor to CDM. In any case, I'd like to state for the record that my husband used to be employed by that company. It was over 25 years ago. I can be independent at this time.
okay, thank you. Okay, with that, let's move on to the first application, Planning and Zoning Commission 26-9. The special exception for a parking, shopping center at 224 East Main Street. Agent or applicant available, if you'd state your name for the record, please.
Of course. Good evening, Commission. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Seamus Moran. I work for H&H Engineering Associates, PE in Connecticut. I am just one of the members of the team who will be speaking tonight.
I just interrupt for a second. We're having a bit of an issue with the internet, and so if it gets bumped off, that's us them coming back. We also are recording on another separate device to be sure we get everything.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
So if that happens again, does that mean we're reconnected?
Yes.
Okay. We'll just, hopefully we stay connected the rest of the time.
Thank you.
Anyway, so thank you for having us tonight. We're here for a special permit and a CAM application for the application for 224 East Main Street. which is along US Route 1. You probably know it's adjacent to the Walgreens. It's on the south side of Route 1, on the east side of Walgreens. So as you see the plan before you here, north is actually in this bottom corner. The Walgreens is right here. Route 1 is on the bottom half. This is the northern side of the page. This is the east side, and the back half of the property is the southern portion of the property. We're here for special permit CAM. We also had to get health approval from Brad, which we received in April for the septic system, which we'll get to momentarily. We also need to get wetlands approval, which we received in June, and it was June 2nd. We received wetlands approval. It was also referred to the design review board. And we received that approval, I believe, or not approval, but recommended for approval back in May. May 13th was that design review committee meeting. So what you see before you here is the existing conditions of property. There's 3 existing buildings that are not in great shape as it is, with a parking lot and some paved parking. There's some gravel parking area that extends to the back of the property. There's currently an access to the Walgreens to the west via the paved access, and a curb cut along Route 1 that's accessible in any direction at the current moment, which we'll get to a little bit more on that in a moment. Much of the back of the property is disturbed right now. It doesn't show that on the survey plan, but there's a landscaping operation there that has significantly disturbed most of the back of the property. That will be done. So what we're looking to do construct a new shopping center. What you see here on the west side of the property is this is a new Aldi's shopping center. I'm sure everybody knows it. It's a supermarket, it's a grocery store. It's about 20,664 square feet. We are showing 95 current parking spaces on the property. And off to the east is the other portion of the shopping center, which we don't have tenants for. We don't have an exact building for yet. So it's reserved as a future 6,000 square foot commercial facility and a future parking lot with the dumpster location. So we're planning for that development on the eastern portion of the property, knowing that we will have to get tenants, we'll have to get users for that facility, which we have one bird in the hand around, that would be Aldi's. So we are designing the site to accommodate the Aldi's use. As I mentioned, 95 parking spaces, future use as 11 future parking spaces for 106 total parking spaces, including current and future. Based on the current use, based on the current Aldi's use and the future use, 81 parking spaces is the minimum, 107 is the maximum. So we're showing 95, which is kind of right in the middle, and 106 is the upper limit, which is just below the maximum. We are showing a bike rack along the western property line. Dumpster is behind the building on a loading ramp for the Aldi's loading dock. And the curb cut. We're maintaining the curb cut to the Walgreens. It's a 2-way access. There's a stoplight across from the Walgreens that I'm sure everybody knows about. So we're maintaining that access from Walgreens to access the site. The curb cut that we have out to Route 1, that's actually being changed to an eastbound only. So traveling in this direction only. So you can only access the parking lot heading eastbound and can only exit heading eastbound. So we've changed that from a 2-way in each direction just to an eastbound entry and exit. And that was because of the proximity to the stoplight. That was based on early DOT feedback we received several months ago. So that's why this is now no longer free for all and left or right entry. It's just an eastbound entry or an exit. The stormwater management. This was a little bit more labor intensive than we initially expected, but I think we have a really good plan. What you see here is a subsurface ADS storm tech system. We're calling it Stormwater Management Area A. This manages the runoff generated from the majority of the parking lot and the future use. So we've accounted for this development to be 85% impervious. So this stormwater management system A, which is the subsurface ADS storm tech system, treats runoff from this parking lot to the future use. And beyond, after it discharges from this detention system, it goes into a subsurface gravel wetland. The reason for the subsurface gravel wetland is it removes nitrogen. That was one of the design parameters that we had to meet. So each system acts somewhat separately. Or the storm tech system removes solids, provides detention, removes phosphorus. Then it discharges to gravel wetland, which also removes solids and phosphorus, but mostly nitrogen. So that was to meet the removal percentages required for the stormwater quality management. The back bioretention basin, that is to manage the rooftop runoff and the northern parking area here. So northern parking area in the building, I'll go to a bioretention basin in the back corner of the property. Moving on to the storage, I believe. Utilities are fairly simple. The building will be served by domestic water and fire protection. Those are coming from Route 1, same as electric, telephone, and cable coming from Route 1. We are showing a new fire protection line to a hydrant in the center of the parking lot. As I mentioned earlier, there is no sanitary sewer, so we do have a septic system that I'll get to in a moment here. That's why it's not shown sanitary. There's no sanitary lines because there's a separate septic system plan. Soil erosion sediment control plan, which is fun. So what you see here, all the necessary things of the soil erosion sediment control manual, construction entrance, temporary soil stockpile areas, concrete washout areas, erosion control matting, temporary soil stockpile areas, silt fence, silt sacks, all around the downgrading limits of disturbance. So all of those are obviously in accordance with the soil erosion sediment control manual. We do have the manual, the construction sequencing, another sheet, which I don't think we have to go through. Just know that it has been reviewed by the town engineer. And it's satisfactory. This is the photometric plan. We had a lighting consultant provide us the photometric details for this. We gave them the parameters in the zoning regulations, 15 feet maximum height, dark sky compliant. And we use some of the building mounted fixtures that Aldi likes to use to generate the photometric plan. So that's what you see here on the photometric plan. Everything that's a little bit darker is above a 0 foot candle. Everything that's shaded to the perimeter is a 0.0 foot candle. So there's obviously safety in what we need in the parking lot areas and in the walkways. And beyond that, we try to shade people like foot candle style. Quickly, this is just a turning template for a 100-foot aerial fire truck, just showing that we can get into the site and eastbound around the entire parking lot, and then exiting to the right, exiting eastbound as well, without running into islands or any parking areas or crossing over any lines. Septic system is there's a very small demand on all these facilities. So what we have is a septic tank to a pump chamber, the small leaching field. As I mentioned, this was fairly straightforward and simple. That was reviewed by CRAD and approved back in April. So that's what we have for the septic system. That's why it was on the utility plan, but it's a very straightforward septic application that was reviewed by CRAD. With that, I'm going to pass the Clint. I'm sorry, not to Clint, to Kevin to discuss the landscaping. Kevin will then pass to our traffic engineer. Traffic engineer will pass to our architect, and then the architect will pass it back to me. And then we can open up for questions. So without further ado, I'll pass it to Kevin.
For the record, my name is Kevin Johnson, project landscape architect. Just a quick orientation with the landscape plan. Again, Route 1 is to the bottom of the sheet, walking to the right, existing wetlands, wooded area to the top, and the log cabin, restaurant, and parking area to the left. We're proposing a broad array of plants on this site. I'll just do a broad overview of what we're proposing, beginning in the front, just proceeding around the site. So across the entire frontage of the property, we have overhead utility lines. One of my concerns was I didn't want to plant a major deciduous tree, such as a large maple or an oak. Something's going to grow relatively tall, eventually grow into those utility lines. What I've selected is a lower growing ornamental tree. It's called a paperbark maple. This tree will grow about 25, 30 feet tall, spread about 20 to 25 feet wide. And they're set back about 30 feet from the front property line. There are some vehicle parking spaces which will face Route 1. What I tried to do there to soften that visual view was to include some, broadleaf evergreen shrubs. They're called a compact inkberry. These particular shrubs will grow about 3 to 4 feet tall, spread approximately equal, again, 3 to 4 feet. And added some herbaceous perennials in front of those shrubs, just for some visual flowering effect in warmer months. Internal to the parking lot and at the entranceway, I've included deciduous tree. This is called a hornbeam. It's a columnar tree. The reason I picked that again was because of circulation, truck traffic, refuse vehicles, etc. I didn't want a tree that was going to spread out. I wanted something more compact, so the branches would not broken, etc. This is a very good street tree. I've used on many applications, many projects in the past, with good results. In the landscaped islands within the parking area, it's a combination again of some of the compact inkberries, herbaceous perennials, such as coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, Montauk daisies. Again, plants that will provide seasonal interest, that'll take the heat from asphalt and will tolerate poor soils. Proceeding around to the Walgreens portion of the site, again, we do have a landscape buffer requirement for zoning. Walgreens does have their own existing coniferous mix of planting on their property. What we're proposing is a linear row of arborvitaes to reinforce that buffer as well as a fence, 6-foot wood fence. This particular arborvitae will grow 15 to 20 feet tall and spread about 5 feet tall. Proceeding to rear, again, as Mr. Moran had indicated, this is a disturbed area. There's wetlands in the back. There's also a wooded area. There's also a lot of invasive plant material. There's Japanese knotweed, there's bittersweet, multiflora rose, poison ivy, you name it. There's a lot of stuff in there. With construction of the stormwater management areas, those invasives will be removed. We're going to revegetate that entire area with native species, consisting of deciduous as well as broadleaf evergreen shrubs. Each of these shrubs will grow 6 to 10 feet tall. They'll provide nesting opportunities and food in the form of berries for small mammals, birds, etc. Proceeding along the log cabin side, in this general vicinity of the site, it's a mixture of white spruce, white pine, arborvitaes. Again, the intent here was to reinforce those same plant species that are on the Walgreens site. So visually between the Walgreens and this portion of the site, visually, eventually as the plants grow, they'll complement each other. Closer to the front where the site narrows, I propose Steve's holly. These are a broadleaf evergreen shrub. They'll grow 8 to 10 feet tall, again, spread about 5 feet in width. Again, evergreen all year. In terms of the ground plane, we're proposing 4 different seed mixtures for areas that are going to be grass. I'm proposing a fescue mixture. Fescue grass is a fine bladed grass as compared to a bluegrass, which is wider. The fescues tolerate drought, dry conditions much better. The species that I selected here is actually called Coastal. It's available from the Charles C. Hart Seed Company in Weathersfield, so it's a local company. The bottom of the stormwater management areas selected a species from New England wetland plants out of Amherst, Mass. Those species will tolerate frequent inundation after, say, storm events when these basins fill up with storm water. The side slopes of those basins will have a different mixture to taller growing grass up to 2 feet. And they also contain wildflowers. So again, there's something for the pollinators and butterflies, etc. And the last species, any stockpiles, the topsoil, etc., they'll get a ryegrass mixture. So that's a broad overview, at this point. I'll turn it over to our traffic engineer.
Good evening. Am I coming through well?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. My name is Guled Mahmood. I'm a project engineer with F.A. Hesketh and Associates, specializing in traffic engineering. I've been with the firm for 8 years, and prior to that, worked for the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Our office has prepared a traffic impact report, which outlines the trip generation potential of the proposed shopping center, which consists of the Aldi's Market and 6,000 square feet of strip retail building. Our traffic report utilizes a Connecticut Department of Transportation count that was conducted on Route 1 west of the Causeway. The count was conducted during August 2025, and it indicates an average daily traffic volume of 9,100 vehicles, with peak hour volumes of 470 vehicles during the morning peak hour, 883 vehicles during the afternoon peak hour. In addition to the conduct counts, our office conducted our own counts at the intersections of Route 1 with Meadow Road and Mallard Lane, Route 1 with Stop and Shop driveway and Walgreens driveway, and Route 1 at Beach Park Road and Plymouth Court. The counts were conducted during May 2026 for the afternoon and Saturday peak hours. It is anticipated that the development, if approved, will be completed and open for business during the year of 2028. Therefore, we used a review of historic conduct counts in the area on Route 1 to determine the increase in traffic, and found an increase of about 2.5% per year. So we have increased Route 1 traffic volumes 5% per year to the design year of 2028. To determine the trip generation for the proposed use, we utilize the Institution of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Report. The trip generation report presents generation estimates for a multitude of land uses uh, based on counts conducted at existing facilities throughout the country. Included within the database are land use codes for strip retail plaza and for supermarket uses. The reports present trip generation data based on the square footage of the buildings. Applying the ITE equations to the proposed shopping center yielded an average daily traffic volume of 3,144 trips, with 265 trips during the PM peak hour and two and 983 trips on a Saturday, with peak hour volume of 295 trips. We then applied a distribution of site generated traffic that was reflective upon the observed traffic volumes during the manual turning counts. Based on the directional split of for the Clinton Town Center, we have shown a directional split of 70% to and from the west and 30% to and from the east. Capacity analysis were completed for the 2028 background traffic volumes and the combined condition, which is applying our site generated trips to the background volumes. This was done using Synchro, which is the standard for capacity analysis. Our analysis found that the levels of service were the same for the background conditions as they were for the combined conditions. Therefore, observations from our report, it is our professional opinion that the traffic volumes associated with the proposed development can be readily accommodated by the existing roadway network. The proposed sideway driveways are properly located with respect to adjacent intersections and with respect to available site distances. We found that there was greater than 500 feet of intersection site distance in either direction of the proposed driveways. So we feel that the proposed site and intersections can handle the site generated traffic volumes. If you have any questions regarding the traffic report, I'm here to answer them. I appreciate the opportunity to provide this analysis to you. Thank you.
We'll listen to. Okay. Go on to the next.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to Clint Batista, who's on Zoom as well, who's gonna just go over his architectural plans. Hopefully, Clint, you can hear us, and you're able to share your architectural plans.
Yep. Good evening. Before I shared plans, I just wanted to kind of provide some information regarding Aldi and their operations. Aldi has been in Connecticut since 1997. They currently operate 33 stores and they plan to have 6 more in the near future. They open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. They're closed for 7 holidays. They have 20 to 22 employees. About 12 of those are full-time. The delivery trucks come from the distribution center in South Windsor, Connecticut. They get at least 1 delivery a day overnight. Trucks do not idle there. It takes about an hour to unload the truck. The truck never stays in the dock. Once it's unloaded, it goes back to the warehouse. And they do have milk deliveries 3 to 4 times a week after the store opens. And those are about 15-minute unload times. So they don't take very long to unload and get out of there. The store itself is about just over 20,600 square feet. There's a 1,000 square foot canopy that is over the entry, and it covers the carts so that the carts are somewhat protected from the weather, as well as the patrons that come into the store. I will share my screen to show some of the specifics. This is the Aldi floor plan. The main entry faces Route 1 to the front. These are the carts that I'd mentioned. So you'd grab your cart, go in the store. The loading dock is in the back, so you would not be able to see the truck doing the delivery from the main road. The extra elevations, we took some design cues from the adjacent pharmacy. We didn't just copy the building, but we kind of, tried to put our spin on that design aesthetic and be complementary to that. So we have 2 different color masonry products that we create columns and a water table on the bottom. There's some fiber cement Nichiha fields with glazing. There's an ephes cornice along the whole top of the building. The main entry has a tower. You can see here, it's an aluminum composite panel material. This is the side that faces the main road. So this is where the carts are, kind of behind this half wall and underneath this canopy. This is the loading dock area in the back. And this is that loading dock. That portion's a little bit shorter than the main building. These kind of show the materials. The kind of reddish color is a mix of different shades of red, spec brick. The pilasters and the water table are more of a gray colored spec brick. The ephes soffit up at top is kind of an off-white color. The main tower aluminum composite panel is a bright silver with a matching coping. This is the metal coping over top of the white ephes cornice. And these are the Nichiha fields that they're fiber cement, but they have the aesthetic of wood planks. And then here was a 3D rendering. It's not an exact representation of the color, but this is kind of how this building will look on the site, mainly from the front. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you do have architectural related items.
Hello?
He's probably just getting connected again.
Clint, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, was there a question? I'm sorry.
Yep, so our, our recording paused while you had the 3D rendering up, so anything that was
Oh.
said right after.
Do you want me to show that again?
Please.
Okay. Here's that 3D rendering that shows kind of the two front side corners of that building from Route 1. Anyone have any questions that I could answer?
We'll do questions from, after the team is done.
Okay. Do you want me to go back to anything or to stop sharing?
You can stop sharing for the moment.
Okay.
Just hang tight. I'm just gonna, special exception criteria, I just want to go over that really quickly. So we are obviously here for a special exception permit. So there's the 8 criteria that we have to meet. The first is the location, type, and character of the building. It has to be in use in harmony with the development, which I believe we are. Walgreens is adjacent to it. Stop and Shops shopping center is across the street from that, so I believe we meet the first criteria. The second criteria is that adequate access for emergency vehicles and fire protection have to be met. So of course, fire marshal and fire chief have reviewed it. They want to see the plans are in construction, but the only thing they asked for was that we demonstrate that a vehicle, a fire truck can get around the site, which we have done. And they asked for a hydrant, so that is placed on the site, and also an EAS box for them to access the building. So all of that will be worked out with the building permit at the building permit phase. The third criteria are that the streets can adequately serve the development, which I think our traffic engineer alluded to that, and we satisfy that criteria. That the lot is of sufficient size to accommodate the use. So we meet the gross floor area requirements, lot coverage requirements, landscaping requirements, even for the future improvements. So I do believe that we meet that criteria. The fifth is that the property will be suitably landscaped, which I think Mr. Johnson provided a great presentation of that we are meeting that criteria. The sixth is that the use, site plan, architectural design are in conformance with the POCD, which it is, and I think Ms. Pearsall pointed out in her staff review that it does meet the POCD requirements as well. The seventh criteria is that the future connections of future transportation, road, and or circulation plan is part of the POCD. So again, that's another POCD item, that the parking lot and the use, the POCD. The eighth criteria is that the architectural plans are within harmony development. So the first one is that the use is within harmony, and the eighth is that the architectural component is within harmony development. I think Mr. Batista pointed out that we meet that criteria as well. Lastly, staff comments. We do have, as I mentioned, wetlands approval, CRAD approval, DOT encroachment permit. We submitted an application to them about a month and a half ago. We received comments on June 30th. Some of those comments were that they just wanted to change some of the signage and add signage along Route 1. So we added that and resubmitted those plans to them on Thursday, July 9th. We don't expect there to be comments beyond that, but again, they were very minor that we addressed. And lastly, the town engineer reviewed it for the wetlands application, approved it for the wetlands application, re-reviewed it, and provided a letter late Friday afternoon that this is still in conformance with the water quality manual and the standard. I'm not sure if Abby will speak at some point, but she also didn't have any outstanding comments, and we did review her potential motion for the commission, and we don't have any issues with that. I think with that, I will sit down and open up for any questions.
I'll start and then allow the commission to. I had two concerns. The first one has to do with the second part of the project. Is there a timeline in mind for that? Because we are asked, if you're committing to having 3 additional shops or 3 additional I thought it was three,
Four.
Four? Okay, additional, sites. So is there a timeline for that for, I mean, I know you're looking for,
Yeah.
tenants.
So if, you know, Mr. Lyman, you'll know that if he had four tenants right now, that would be on our plan. Ron does not wait around. We don't have the tenants yet. It's a 6,000 square foot building that we're planning, which is 1,500 square foot tenant spaces, which is plenty of space for a tenant of this size. We don't have the tenants in place yet, so as soon as we do have that, now I'm sure having an Aldi's as an anchor will certainly help. Will help sell those tenant spaces. So we don't have anything in place now. We don't have a timeline for that construction.
Do you
But
have,
that future-
do you have plans for the building in terms of structure?
No, the only thing we've done is a plan for 6,000 square feet right now, for the stormwater management purposes for the parking calculations. So that's the only thing that we have right now is that we've accounted for the 6,000 square foot building and associated parking.
The second question I had has to do with, people who, want to go west. They would be queuing up at the light by Walgreens. How many cars can queue up, there with the distance between the cut to the Walgreens, and the traffic light?
So just in the lane or on our property as well?
Just in the lane, yeah.
Match three.
Yeah, because I'm concerned about parking flow going, west, to the west. Whether or not you have enough space for that. Did the DOT make any comments on that?
They did not make any comments about that. I'm sure,
Your traffic engineer might.
yes.
know. And given the number of, trips at peak time, do you foresee, did you find any issues with the, queuing up at the traffic light?
No, we did not find any queuing issues. We found that the levels of service and associated calculations found that the combined condition, which is the condition that would be that would involve our site generated traffic, was similar to the background condition, and levels of service remain the same under both conditions. And I do want to add to the prior question that our traffic impact report does also include the 6,000 square feet of retail, as if it was operating. So associated traffic with that is also included in our report.
Thank you. With that, I'll open this up to members of the commission. Bo, you want to go?
Yeah, getting back to that 6,000 square foot building. If you're coming into the shopping center, that has to be shown on the plan. You can't just tell us it's gonna be here. If you look at section 4, application requirements, section 4.7.1 requires that you submit the architecturals for that 6,000 square foot building. It's not there. So that's something you have to, if you're gonna come in into the shopping center, you have to show us a shopping center, not just a retail 6,000, 20,000 square foot building. You can't have it both ways. So you've gotta come back to adjust your application to meet that criteria. And again, that's in section 4. The lighting plan, I don't know if it's been corrected or not, but there were several movements on the several sites on the western border, and I think some on Route 1 that exceeded the 0.2 foot candle limit.
Okay,
I don't know if that's been adjusted yet or not.
I think, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think that was in the result letter that would
Okay.
just have to be corrected with shields.
Quick question for the traffic engineer. Most of the movements, I mean, there's only 2 movements here that actually saw a degradation, 3 that showed 2 that showed a degradation in level of service, none below a D, which is actually quite commendable. But I had a question on westbound through Saturday traffic. You have an increase in level of service from a D to a C. I take it that's from a timing perspective by retiming the lights.
Yes, sir. That is exactly it.
Okay, that's what I assumed it was. Also, when you're reporting your narrative on page 3, the site generated traffic, you have what I'm assuming is a typo because it says to determine trip generation for proposed warehouse use. As we know, this is not a warehouse use, so that's, but it goes on to describe everything accurately except for that one statement, so that's probably a typo in your assuming
Yes, sir.
in your, and that's on page 3, the bottom paragraph entitled site generated traffic. So that just as a housekeeping, probably be corrected.
I appreciate the input, and we apologize for the mistake. But yes, the entire analysis was done for a supermarket and retail use and not a warehouse.
Yeah, that, I read that. Another question I have is on page 9 of the site plan that we had submitted there. It showed the footprint of that 6,000 square foot building. And it appeared, at least on the rendering that we had on our site, that a portion of that building actually entered into the gravel detention basin. Could you bring that up, page 9? Do you have that? It was on page 9 of your plan. It doesn't look like it. I know, I thought it was page 9 on what was submitted to us. This, doesn't that have the,
The faint line work is the future proposed parking.
right, and doesn't the upper corner of that protrude into the gravel detention basin? No, no.
Corner is up.
The corner of the building, the proposed,
This
right there, yeah.
Building, yeah.
No, okay. So
That's
put your
the-
finger in the upper corner, right there. Does that enter into that gravel detention basin?
The gravel detention basin is back here.
What were the elevation lines there? Just,
This is contour 17.
okay, so it's just a contour. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Well,
Are there questions from any of the other members? And I should point out, since this is a public hearing, alternates are allowed to, ask questions because you're allowed to participate. Are there any other questions from the commission members? Okay,
just
go
to
ahead.
respond to the shopping center designation, so, this has been discussed for months, clearly, we don't have the building plan because we don't know who the tenants are, so we can't design the building for it. We're just accounting for that space, and now,
But that's not, it's required in the regulation. You don't have a choice. You can't just tell us that it's gonna be here. You have to show us. You have to show us on the plan whether it's gonna actually be that way or not. You know, you can come. If you came in under the retail establishment, you wouldn't have to do this. You chose to come back again under the shopping center.
Yep.
Now, if you're gonna come back under the shopping center, you have to meet the criteria for a shopping center. And under that, in the application process, section 4 of our regulations requires architectural for that. And it also, you have to show us the kind of the breakdown. Again, you don't have to hold it to, 1,500 square feet per building. If you get a tenant that wants more than that, you're gonna adjust it. That's fine. You can come back and, that can be arranged probably even administratively.
but
Abby, I'm gonna interrupt you, but I think Abby wanted to say something.
Well, I just want to make sure that the full, so the section that the bill is referencing, 4.7, is the architectural plan. So 4.7.1 does require architectural plans to be submitted. 4.7.4 reads, the commission may excuse the requirement for professionally prepared architectural plans or deem acceptable drawings prepared by a designer, builder, building supplier, applicant, or other as may be appropriate to the proposed use upon written request of the applicant. So this is not a mandate, something that you do have that ability, and that's for the commission to review.
They do, we have not received a written request for that waiver. They would still have to show us a breakdown of that, and quite frankly, I feel it's kind of important. My opinion, it's kind of important that if you're coming in under a shopping center, you've got to show us the shopping center. If you're coming under the other one, I can't remember the regulation. I believe it's 27.2.24. Yeah, which is be a retail establishment, then you didn't have to do this, but
Well,
we
don't
chose to go
want-
down this avenue.
Yeah, correct. So we don't want a retail establishment. It says it's a planned shopping center.
Understood.
And we're looking for the tenants to
Right.
fill that space. And
So we
can't-
want to see a shopping center. We don't want to see just a retail building, my point.
Agree, but that the retail building may be, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the additional tenants may be retail. They may be a restaurant, they may be. an
That's fine.
outlet. So
That's all
we
fine, but
can't
you-
design the building and provide architectural plans without the tanks to go into those spaces, which is why the discussions we've had with town staff and what's on the plans is that we know the Aldi's, we provide architectural plans, the future use to future parking, we'll have architectural plans. Once we can get to that state, but we have accounted for it and designed accordingly for that future building and parking.
Just to clarify, have you provided a written request for that as, our regulations would allow?
We haven't provided a written request for a waiver of that. We didn't.
I think the simplest thing would be for you to do that.
If I were to write something now, during the meeting.
I would think that would be
That'd be
appropriate,
sufficient.
Okay.
right, and get it submitted, okay,
Okay, yes, thank you.
very good. Okay,
Can I just clarify?
go ahead.
So with a written request or waiver for written request, and they do not need to submit any type of,
Well, we have to,
We have to
consider-
we have,
we have to vote on it.
if we accept that.
If we accept it, they don't have any. Correct.
But the actual physical plant of the building is stated.
It's stated and it's accounted for in their
Square feet.
Yeah,
calculation,
yeah.
but
In drainage
what's
calculation.
missing is the architectural.
wastewater.
work. Okay, go ahead, Zach.
If the deviation is accepted, they do still have to come back for future site plan,
Yes, they would have to come back when they have when they are going to do
the development, the
Right.
second.
Any modification of the footprint, any changes to the plan will require.
I just wanted to make it.
And you can certainly put that as a condition that each of you want to see the architecturals when they're decided at that point. You can make findings if you were to consider those.
Because wastewater would be impacted depending on if it's a
They
restaurant,
will-
everything is.
They
set for
have to
that.
account for that, and they've accounted for it with drainage and everything else, that's already been
Okay.
taken care of. Wastewater, like I said, if it's a restaurant, would have the grease traps and that sort of thing, but that's, something that they would apply for.
Okay. So you can provide, while you're doing that, if, I can open this up to the public then. If there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this, development, please, come forward, state your name for the record and, go ahead.
Question. Usually. Does the public have a chance to ask questions without taking a stance whether in favor or?
Yeah. As I said at the beginning, we start with, information, in favor, then we talk about opposed, then general comments.
The comments would be where we have a chance to ask questions.
You can ask me questions, and if, something within our purview, I will, ask the applicant to respond.
Okay, and we would wait till the end to do that.
Nice.
One thing, Mike, if I may, just for the public's knowledge, and also a reminder to commissioners. We know from press release and everything else that it's gonna be an Aldi, but what's actually in front of the commission is for a shopping center, not necessarily Aldi's. I mean, that's just something that we have to keep in the back of our minds. That we're not approving or denying an Aldi's, we're approving or denying a shop.
Okay, okay, is there anybody who wants to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who wants to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none? Well, please come forward. And state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Matt Williams. I reside at 91 Ironworks Road in Clinton. I wanted to talk about the building, or I guess now I understand potential buildings. And I would respectfully request that the commission not consider approving a building sight unseen. And I just want to talk a little bit about the character of Clinton and what this building does and doesn't do to hopefully make that better. And I'll just recall very quickly, I moved here in 1990, and I remember when I got here, everybody was outraged by the Monroe Muffler Building. Because it had this massive yellow billboard on it, and it just was the most god awful thing that ever happened. I think particularly as opposed to 248 to 252 East Main, which is where the Key Bank And those buildings had just been built, and Clinton was trying very hard to make an improvement in their, what really was their aesthetic reputation was really terrible. And I think an awful lot of good things have happened since then. And I think that there have been a number of buildings built up and down Route 1 that didn't have to be by regulation, architecturally, complementary to what the town's historic architecture, but were anyway by choice. And that was done by many local developers. This from the Hammonasset River down this way, just the ones that come to mind as I'm sitting here for a few minutes. The buildings, the sites that I think people need to think about when you think about what this building could be, okay? So the first one would be the Coastal Fitness Gym, which was originally the Shoreline Fitness Gym, which is a very large retail building. It was designed to be flexible enough to have multiple tenant or one big tenant. 73 West Main Street, 67 West Main Street, which happens to be mixed use. All these buildings have an architectural character that's complementary to our historic heritage. Without being slavish or, not reproductions of any particular building, but they do use materials, roof types, and proportions that are actually worked for what really is the appropriate feeling for our town. 27 West Main, which was the old Clinton Grain and Feed building, is also a large facade. Could have been handled many other ways that would not have been as appealing. The CVS building, which was something that I think this commission went to court over. And I didn't follow that very closely, but I understood the general principles of it, is actually a good looking retail building that I think turned out not to be an embarrassment, right? In the major corner of our town. 114 and 116 West Main, which is the old folks out here, Kenny's building from way back. None of those buildings look like that. Those were all things that were introduced to try to, basically improve the profile of what downtown looked like. The police station building was also a building that was designed in a way so they had a very small little facade on the front and was a great big piece of that. And it was done by an architectural firm in Hartford at the time. And the last thing I just mentioned is the neighbor to this building, which is the Walgreens building. And, I looked at the architectural plans of this and I was trying to discern what the actual building material is. And it says brick, but it's really concrete block. There's a large pattern of, I don't know how big these pieces are, and we can ask the applicant to maybe give us more detail on it. But if you take the note off their drawing, it's called spec or something. And it basically looks like jumbo brick, which is basically a concrete block. That material will look nothing like the Walgreens building. When the Walgreens building was first presented to design review, back when that was done, and I think that was maybe 22, 25 years ago, that was actually their standard boilerplate. We drop this in every city look building. And design review at the time asked them to do some architectural detailing that was a little bit more conventional. And they did do that. And there are some core buildings up there. They did just a very simple, and they did it in a fairly tasteful way. Details along the top of that building. Building doesn't have to have a pitched roof to look like it, had been there a while. And that's what I think was the objective of that. Not only that, it's done with standard modular brick, which is the same size brick that you see in this room and all up and down Clinton. The same brick you see at the Ace Hardware building, all those looks. And I think those are the things that would bring a cohesive architectural character to our town. And I don't believe the commission needs to accept what is very clearly a cookie cutter design. These things come from corporate design. Okay, I've worked with companies like this myself, and I've battled them in some instances. And I think, and in other instances, you didn't have to. They were forthcoming and they wanted to make something that actually fit the town, and they could see the value in presenting something a little different from their boilerplate strip architecture. I mean, this building would be undiscernible from anything you see up and down Route 1 in Milford, which is one of the most unappealing examples I can offer you. But I think that that's what Clinton is battling in this section of town, is not to continue that trend. There have been some improvements over the years in that area, not too many. There's been a lot of stuff built. However, I don't think that we need to accept the standard boilerplate design. I think I would encourage the commission to send them back to the drawing board and do something that's more appropriate. Now, I did read the minutes to design review and it said that, and there were comments by the design review board that said that you know, they should have more character, so it's just shutters with a couple of general things, but I really didn't see any of that stuff. Any of that stuff integrated into what they're presenting, and I don't think that building has got anything to do or really belongs in the plan. So.
Thank you. I'll let you respond after we are finished with the question. Are there anybody else who would like to speak in opposition to this? Okay.
Not in opposition, but in support of what was just said at this point.
Okay, can I have your name for the
My
record?
name is Wes Kavanaugh, 27 East Shore Drive in Clinton.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna be able to hear him from over there.
Can you speak up is what she's saying?
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Wes Kavanaugh, 27 East Shore Drive in Clinton, and I was just at this point in support of everything that was just said before me.
Okay, thank you.
If this is the time for me to ask questions, I've got 2 questions.
Well, if there's no one else who wants to speak in opposition, then you may go ahead.
In these traffic studies, I heard a May date used for your traffic counts. Did you consider the,
You should be talking.
I'm sorry, did the applicant consider the peak loads that we have in the summertime when our population expands and everyone's on the road? We all know that we have a traffic issue in the summer that we don't have in May. So I think that if it hasn't been considered, it should be.
Okay.
And the other thing is a pet peeve of my own, which is when I hear that they're going to put the lighting on the building, because that's the way Aldi's does it, this sends chills up my spine. It's very difficult to throw light that distance to achieve code required lighting in a parking lot, particularly with LEDs, without putting the light in people's eyes who are looking back in. So when you're lighting a parking lot from a building, you have a serious glare problem. We talk about shielding, which is different from aiming. Shielding actually blocks the vision of the source lights. If you've all heard from me before, LEDs are detrimental to your vision. And a light bright enough to throw across the width of a parking lot of 100 cars will be glary unless the source is physically blocked and shaded. And I question whether or not you can achieve the level of light that you are required to have in a parking lot unless there's contributing light from street lights at that distance from the wall of the building. And the reason for the limitation of the height of the poles is to control the light that's built into the community, into the net lights of drivers. I don't think it's achievable to what I would find acceptable as far as the glare problem. And our regulations require control, not just of the foot candles, but also more brightness in the form of glare.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The applicant would like to respond to any of the comments.
I think I'll have Clint respond to the architectural plans and Goulet respond to the traffic, but just quickly on the architectural components. Clint and his team met with a design review committee, design review board many months ago on a pre-application. Design review committee had comments. So when we submitted formally, that incorporated all their preliminary comments. And they were very complimentary of the landscaping and the building design that it incorporated those preliminary comments in the design. So I'm sure Clint can speak to that. And Goulet, if you can just touch on the traffic shortly, but I was probably unclear or I misspoke. The parking lot is not being lit by the building mounted fixtures. If there are parking lot fixtures, I believe it's 7 of them, lighting the parking lot. I was only saying that we included in the photometric plan that we knew that there are building mounted fixtures, so we included those in the photometric plan, not that they're being used to shed light on the parking lot. It's just incorporated in the photometric plan. So that's all. So there are parking lot lights used for the parking lot.
Are those lights shielded?
They're required to be shielded, so yes, they are.
Okay, if you would speak to the architectural concern.
I didn't hear any specific questions, but we did go through 2 rounds of design review. Our initial presentation was the Aldi prototype, and comments received from that meeting were incorporated into what we've presented at this meeting and the last design committee meeting, where we tried to not copy, but complement the adjacent buildings and use some different Aldi materials. And as Seamus said, the lighting on the building is mainly provided for security, safety, and code compliance, and it's not meant to light the parking lot. And those light fixtures are compliant with jurisdictional regulations for light output and shielding. If there's additional questions, I'd be happy to answer those if I missed something.
Yeah, through our chair, can you specify for us just the block size, that we heard in the public comments, so the difference between the block size that's being proposed and standard brick that you might see in more traditional building materials?
So there are a few different sizes of brick. There's a standard brick is roughly 8 by 4 inches. There's king size and queen size bricks that are a little bit bigger. The products that we are using, the manufacturer is called Spec Brick, and it's a 8-inch by 16-inch size. It's meant to emulate a larger brick, and comes in various different colors, so they can change the palette, which is what we've incorporated. Those are all the prototype products, not necessarily the colors, but we're trying to balance the line of complying with jurisdictional feedback and also keeping Aldi's brand identity, which is obviously very important to any retail tenant.
Could that material that you just described, be replaced by what I'll call normal brick? At least on the front facade, I think that's major, Mr. Matthews' main concern is that is more architecturally pleasing and consistent. If I'm not correct, I think that's what he has specified.
I cannot
So
speak
not
for what Aldi would or wouldn't. I can't speak for what Aldi would or wouldn't approve. Obviously, they'd have to make that decision, but I will say that conventional brick is much more expensive, mainly because of the labor involved with laying numerous more bricks on the building. And as an architect, I would say if you just did the front, then it wouldn't really match the other sides. I think it wouldn't look as good if you just did the front.
Thank you. Okay,
Were there any design suggestions that the design commission suggested, but that Aldi chose not to go with in its final design?
They didn't specifically state what we needed to do, like say, hey, use this material or use this element. They basically just said that we should look at the adjacent buildings and try to revise the prototype Aldi facade to complement those adjacent buildings. So in our attempt to do that, we made modifications and we went back to the design review committee. In the last meeting, they seemed supportive of what we had done. And then we were recommended to come to this meeting.
thank you. Any other questions from the commission at this time?
I mean, do we have the minutes from that meeting, architectural review?
Yeah, or you just come up with another.
Have another question?
I know, but I was trying to, I will get back to you, man.
Thank you.
Okay, you have a question?
I just have like a comment. It's, I guess that it'll come up. I don't know if it's helpful, but there's just a minute, so.
Speak up.
I'm sorry, yeah, the design review board's minutes reflect those plans they approved, but there's no deep discussion.
The design review minutes are part of your record, so you do have them to be able to debate and opine on them. We're trying to pull them up on the screen, but are perfect.
I'm going to allow, did you have another comment related to?
I just have a request, Mr. Chairman, of the applicant to detail how they responded, what their specific changes were in the design, because I kind of failed to see that happen.
That might
And
be.
I do have a hard copy of your design review minutes, if you want.
So the question is it possible for you to summarize what changes you made between the first application to design review and the second? Just so.
If you give me a second, I'll try to pull up what we initially submitted. I just have to log in to get those files.
Okay, thank you.
That we have. Done, thank you. Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
I've understood correctly, the building material they're using is cast, concrete, all right, is that the correct thing I'm hearing? So I understand, we're not asking the bricks to be laid, we're just asking for the mold to be reduced to regular brick, is that? Like that, there was a commentary about the increased cost to the,
Well, no, the regular brick, you've got more pieces than you do.
no, I understand, but I understood that to be cast, like it's a mold effectively.
That I'm not sure about.
My understanding and perhaps misunderstanding is that the block is cast in such a way that to make it look like brick, is that correct? So
That's
instead of
correct. All of the pieces that Spec Brick offers are basically an 8x16. They may have there's standard sizes. The sizes that we have on this building are 8x16.
So I apologize, I got confused from the conversation about stamped concrete, basically,
Okay.
or if it was laid, so not stamped concrete.
Yeah, just maybe a question for Abby or the commissioner. So when we went over when we changed our regulations about design and new buildings or renovations, new ownership who wanted to change designs, we came up with colors, a color palette and different types of colors of roofing and materials. Does this design meet with those changed?
You have design standards that came into play, the recent middle housing component, and you have the design standards in section 30.
Right.
There's a lot of open-ended standards in there, and I think what you've heard from public testimony is that there have been times the commission was very strong on saying,
Right.
even though it's not expressly written here, this is a special exception, the commission will force design standards that kind of reflect where the town wants to go. Some of and kind of like going through the conversation with the middle housing piece, some of those standards are open-ended. And so when the design review board is reviewing, what conditions they may place on, sometimes they look and say, okay, do we have, they shall do this. The special exception piece in terms of harmony with, sort of the P O C D and the direction that it is taking, you have some latitude to take a look at this.
I did find I did find the original drawings that were shared, if you like me to share
Yes, if
those.
you would.
So this is the prototype Aldi building.
We're not seeing
It's
anything.
There it goes.
Okay. Can you see now?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's mainly three materials. There's the red spec brick that you see that's pretty much everywhere. There's the entry tower that's in the aluminum composite panel, and then there's these Nichiha fiber cement panel fields. So this is the side that faces Route 1. This is the side that faces the parking lot. This is the back, which is nothing but that spec brick material, and then this is the loading dock area, which is nothing but the spec brick material. So if you compare that to these drawings, I gotta flip over to the screen here. So as you can see with these drawings, let me know when that pops up. So we added pilasters, a water table. There's the top cornice on here. We removed the sign on the side of the building. Each corner here has those pilasters, the water table. We added additional Nichiha fields on the back side of the building where this was nothing but one color brick before. So we actually made substantial changes to this building design.
Go ahead.
Do you have possibly the manufacturer's view of this material so the commission can get a better example, like an up close detail of it?
I think that was page
This-
3 on this.
This is a picture of, I mean, it's not to scale because it's fit on a sheet, but this is kind of the red is not displaying as, you know, shades of red. It's hard to do that, but this is actually what that is. And then the gray is kind of some shades of gray.
Those are actually-
I do have a material board in the office, if you can confirm that the original materials that were sent to us are the materials that are part of this application, we can certainly take a look at that.
Yes, as long as they're Stanton blend and Chesapeake blend, those are accurate.
Yes, sir.
I'm still trying to understand,
For the record.
I'm sorry, Wes Kavanaugh, yeah. I'm still trying to understand these concrete masonry units. Are we saying they are 8 by 16, which is a standard concrete block size? And they are imprinted then with a smaller,
No,
they are not, so you are referring them to a large brick, but they are concrete block size.
That's
It's
correct.
big.
The manufacturer is called spec brick. That is the actual manufacturer of this piece, and it's a concrete masonry size.
Okay, which is, right, it's a concrete block size.
right.
So been no effort to make the facade look like a conventional brick facade, other than in color.
It's a larger brick that has integral color, so there's less maintenance on efflorescence and the color wearing out because it's not just painted.
Okay, we have the architectural, samples here.
Just
Go ahead.
walk around for it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know what we're looking at, but it looks good to me. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can't say anything, but, I'm sure.
I
this
only
is
see
what
the
we
back
had
of it.
At the design review meeting, so these are just the colors. I mean, I'll just come close to you guys and walk around and show you what they look like. I don't know if you guys want to pass them around or if I'll just stand here.
There's
Jeffrey?
there you go.
Sure.
Here's the final, that's the approved.
That is gonna be different shades of red.
Yeah.
All of it, I under.
I will put some on the board here, if it doesn't fall off.
The second page to the second board.
It does, right. That's what I said, that's gonna be different shades.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
I just have a question about, again, the Spec Brick is a company, or can I address, or can I address you?
you can address them.
Spec Brick is the company that's providing the facade bricks for the, for the wall. And the apprehension, or you can't speak for LD, but in your experience, reducing it to be more in line with the regular size brick we see is potentially cost prohibitive, and that's the issue we're seeing. Again, it's not that they don't
It's actually
provide it or
two
something.
items. The two items are, one is a typical brick, because it's much smaller, drastically increases the labor cost to install it. So it is a significant amount of money to change that product. The other point is that spec brick is a prototype approved material by Aldi. So it's in their palette of materials that they typically use.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
If it's new information, yeah,
I think it would be helpful information.
well, come on up.
Matthew Williams, 91 Ironworks Road. I have this is the brochure of spec brick with a photo of it. Okay, which I thought might help you, because seeing one piece, you don't get a sense of that oversized coursing. It has no relation to standard modular brick, and it won't look or feel. And if I may offer this, I don't.
Yeah, please,
I just think it would help you understand what it is that they're asking you to approve.
Can we pass that around?
And as a,
and it needs to get stamped in also.
as a person qualified to speak on it, kind of a jumbo brick, whether it's made of concrete material primarily, or it's actually a clay crossbar, is used on very large buildings typically. It is a cost saving. You don't see it around here because we don't really have buildings of that type. If I could give you an example of what it would look like around here, I would, but I think that that's maybe the question that needs to be asked, is that how is that material in any way relating to any building? That's my, that is my, so.
Does anybody else in the commission have questions?
Just as a point of order, can we have the applicant confirm that this, that we're looking at is the same thing?
What, can you tell us what document that is? It's
Spec brick jumbo, it's their,
okay, so it's the spec sheet from the company that was like.
that would actually make the.
They may have multiple products, they're just, you know.
Blaine, I don't know if you heard that. Can you just confirm that it's spec brick jumbo that is being passed around right now?
Yeah.
Is that the,
Well, I can't see the brochure, but the spec brick jumbo is the product.
Is the product that you're talking about, thank you.
Of course, so this is a special exception, so this is, you're within your purview, of course, but because it's special exception, it also went to design review. There's 7 members in that board who liked it, who agreed and recommended for approval as submitted. So that's what we have. I know Mr. Williams is a great architect and has his own opinions. We had 7 members of the design review board who thought this was a good use. APD is an architectural engineering firm. They think it's a good use. So I guess it's a difference of opinion between our team and the design review board. They recommended for approval.
In the rounds of comments and meetings that we've had, no one's told us that this material is not allowed by your town code.
Okay, with that, we have to decide what we want to do tonight. The first thing, did you submit the written request?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, have either you read it into the record for us so that we can consider this?
Yep, so written request dated 7/13/2026 submitted into the record for the public hearing for PCC 269. LS LLC is requesting a waiver for architectural plans for the proposed future 6,000 square foot building at 224 to 230 East Main Street, Clinton. Signed by Ron Lyman.
Okay. So at this point, what I would like to do is to,
Chairman,
uh,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
have you closed the public question period?
yes, we've,
I'm sorry, I
we
didn't.
haven't closed the public hearing yet. We're dealing with but I'd like to deal with this issue first, and then I can come back to you, sir.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so the question before us as a commission is, do we grant this waiver? I would like to, and we really need to do that before we can close the public hearing or move forward. So, I would like to have a motion one way or the other on, that proposal.
I'd like to make a motion to deny that proposal. I think that it would take nothing to generate a computer-generated architectural plan using whatever materials you want, just to give us something to make our record more complete. They could come back and modify it if it's, you know, particular tenant wanted some addition to it, some difference to the facade. But I think that since it's an important part of a distinguishing between a shopping center and a retail outlet. We're calling this a shopping center, and I think the record should be complete with the architectural requirements of a shopping center. That's my feeling. So therefore,
Making a motion and then.
Yeah.
Then
Yes,
second,
yes.
and then you can argue. in
Yes.
favor.
okay, I'll make a motion to deny.
Do we have a second to deny?
I'll second to deny until we can get this on, yeah, we can move
Okay.
forward, all right.
Okay, you heard both arguments.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Y'all both can make it.
I think I made it already.
I need to say, I'm concerned about the timing of it, if it's going to actually happen. But in terms of the architectural, drawing, we have it in our regs that it can be waived. All the characteristics of the building in terms of drainage and parking and that have already been addressed. So I don't feel, inclined to deny it. I think that it's something that would be appropriate to approve. Or to go with their request.
I think they have to come back to this building and make any changes if they want to change it. I think it's fine what he's saying. It's gonna be a 6,000 square foot building. When he comes to do that, it has to come back to the committee, correct?
Right, and the
Yeah, so he's starting from scratch.
But there's no time frame for when that has to happen, or are we gonna have an empty
well,
lot?
that's my concern, but
Is,
yeah.
right, and then
But-
therefore it's not a shopping center.
But
By nature.
But even if they show it on the plan, they don't build it, it's an empty lot.
True.
And there's nothing we can do because we're giving a special exemption to say by this time frame.
No, that's not typically a piece you can put on there. What would happen is you have a special exception, the use is permitted on the land. You can certainly specify the level of landscaping that needs to be put into place while it's, you know, sort of in progress and, or in terms of new, dental tenants or anything else. So things, I mean, they're showing that it has to be grassed and stabilized. It can't be left open as dirt. It has to look like a finished site. Pad sites are common things. That's not out of the realm of normal development. The question for the commission is, are you comfortable with what you will be getting? One of the things I would say is, you know, there's a draft motion that is in a staff report for you, but I would put more support around this conversation, should you choose to go forward, and grant a waiver, that your expectations for, you know, approval of that building design are a little bit elevated from coming back to modify the site plan later, that you still retain the special exception elements and be able to find that if it isn't consistent with surrounding architecture or the things be concerned about that you have those teeth still in.
Mike, if I may ask a question to the,
Yes, man, it's still a public hearing.
and what made your decision to apply for a shopping center as opposed to a retail outlet, which, as you can apply for a retail outlet and really the conditions are relatively the same. The parking is almost the same. There's really not much difference. So why did you go with this approach as opposed to just a retail store?
Sure, well, I know Mr. Lyman, House LC wants a future tenant over there, so they're planning for future tenants, future building over there, so they have been planning for this anyway, so if you go with a retail use, the retail use, I don't think allows another principal structure on the property. I could be wrong with that, but I believe the shopping center allows us to have the anchor tenant, they all do supermarket, and the future use with smaller leasable spaces. Right now, we can get the anchor tenant and the plan for the future, where if we go with the retail space, there's no future building. That's not.
Is that accurate, Abby? It is accurate that, well, he said that if it was just a retail application, that it would limit the ability to apply for the additional retail space in the future.
They would have to come back in for a shopping center. Special
Right, to modify
exception
it
in the
into a
future
shopping
to
center.
provide these other 4 units to meet that criteria, so that was.
So,
Well, that's so concerned about that.
so in other words, what you're saying is that is a very strong intent of the act.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you. Yes,
I just heard that preliminary hearing we had about this application previously, when we were talking about the stuff. The owner mentioned another potential tenant and it's not, it was gonna be a freestanding one shop place. Might I ask about that or?
well, they've changed the
Yeah.
plan.
Okay. Is there any chance for that potential thing to come back or?
What you saying with one?
Yeah,
Well, if they have a shopping center, they have to have 4 additional. That's in the regulations. They have to have 4 additional stores.
right.
1,500 square.
I'm just, well, cause like, initially you mentioned a certain fast food restaurant and if they ever came back, then we'd have to reject it because it's not for it or one of the 4.
Yes,
It would,
yeah, basically, yes. Yeah. As a shopping center, they're required to have 4 additional support stores.
Okay,
And other questions, they don't all have to be 1,500 square feet, it's 6,000 and it can be broken up.
Absolutely, yeah. But it has to be broken up into 4 different.
but they don't have to be equal, but,
Yeah.
right. Okay, at this point, I would like to, call the motion that's on the floor to deny the request. To a vote, so those who want to, deny the waiver, if you would, say aye. Okay, those in favor of supporting the waiver, then, if you would say aye. Okay. It looks like we've, granted the waiver.
You don't need a separate motion to approve the waiver, even though we made a motion to deny it, we need a
You
separate.
should have it on the record that you
Yes.
specifically.
Okay,
I'll move to approve. the
Second.
waiver.
okay. We've had our discussion, so all those in favor, opposed? And
Steve.
I don't get a vote. Okay. So the waiver has been, allowed. With that,
You are allowed to. go.
we had one individual in the public who still wanted to speak or add information. If you could come forward so we make sure we get you on the microphone. Okay, if you would state your name for the record, please.
Art Wiley, High Water Lane. My question could probably be answered by this gentleman particularly. He's the landscaping expert. The property behind the building to the south has been greatly messed up by the tree company that's been there for several years. They did a marvelous job cleaning up after themselves. I want to know if we can find where the back line, the south line of this property is. It's a bank of trees. The property behind the property we're talking about is a combination of a piece of land accessed from Beach Park Road and part of the Clinton Land Trust. So they're both two separate pieces that are not involved in this. I heard mention of invasive plants, poison ivy. We're gonna do all kinds of things to make that place all nice. Where is that back line now relative to the bank of trees that are there?
If you would like to, our landscape expert, do you know where the trees are on your map landscape? Where the, other two properties are, where is
Existing digitized store.
if you could show us on the landscaping plan, that would be easier. Where is the, if you know, where the land trust property is relative to the work you're doing?
In terms of the land that's already been messed up back.
But let them speak.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, for the record, Kevin Johnson, yeah, the existing tree line does not really show up on this landscape plan. I mean, generally, it comes through here, this portion of the site. This heavy green line here is the proposed tree line.
Correct.
So in this area of the site, that proposed tree line is almost coincident with the property line. Much farther away here where it jogs. I cannot tell you right now where that line is in the field. You would have to have a surveyor flag that line.
It's been flagged, but
Yeah, so if I may, James Moran again, there's a wetland along this southern property line, and if I go back to the existing emissions plan, there's a faint line that you can see here, up here. This is the digitized current line with the overhang, with the tree overhang, but the wetland is not disturbed. The wetlands was reflagged again. I think it was in March, it was reflagged, and the wetlands have not been disturbed, and that's along the southern property line extended into the property.
That's the eastern part that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the back line.
right, we can't have discussions like,
Sorry. Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay. I don't believe then with the waiver, I don't believe there's anything outstanding on this application.
The question for the commission is whether or not you feel you have enough information to close the hearing, or if there's anything else you want in terms of building materials, design, or other pieces into your record.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion?
I guess I should have quick discussion amongst discussion amongst you, anything there? Or-
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the question to us is, do we have enough information? One of the outstanding questions I feel we're having is, does Aldi's buy off on a smaller brick? Like that isn't answered, because this is a discussion in theory, not discussing with the actual store owner, so. That's just a comment I have.
I think in regard to that, or at least in relation to that, is we have to keep in mind that while Aldi's is the proposed tenant, what we have to decide is, do we want to approve this shopping center? Not an Aldi's, not anybody's, a shopping center that has this material on the front. Aldi's really is, I mean, it's an obvious part of the equation, but it's not the, the commission is required to consider the use and not the user. That's the, how the regulations read, the statute.
It went through the design committee, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's, why are there talking?
So the question is,
Do we have?
do we have enough information to close the public hearing or not? If we do, I'd like somebody to make that motion.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. We'll move back to our agenda. Item 5B has been withdrawn. That's the, map, zone map change. So we move on to item C, Planning and Zoning Commission 26-15, the site plan for cap and closure of the Clinton landfill. Is there an agent or applicant here for this?
Yeah.
Good.
We have my name is Dave Barrett. This is Emily Kelpin, with Lorero Engineering Associates. Our presentation is electronic. Wondering if we could present it on the screen.
You should be able to
I
sign in.
can't, I'm having internet issues and cannot connect.
Yeah, we are too.
We do have a zip file.
Or I can HDMI connect from my laptop. If you have an HDMI.
So we have other folks in the public that are signed in. We could, do you have another HDMI port on your laptop?
Or would one of you be able to log in using the staff Wi-Fi? Is that a different Wi-Fi connection?
No, we don't have another ability to do that.
Can I move the commission to take a 5-minute recess to use the restroom and figure this out so that we may use the restroom?
I will give us a 5-minute break then. What time are we? 8:39. We'll come back at 8:45. Back is J45 and we're back in session. Please stop for conversations and let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. So we are Lorero Engineering Associates, application on behalf of the town of Clinton. So have Emily Kelty, our project manager. She's a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Myself, Dave Farrick, I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, also a licensed environmental professional. And Steve Diaz and John Sullivan as well. So Emily and I are both gonna co-present this evening. So the project, this is the old Nod Road. This is the old Nod Road landfill. It's about a little over 9-acre landfill. So what we're proposing to complete is a comprehensive closure of the landfill. So this is the proposed project will be in accordance with state DEP solid waste regulations. And it's also closing out an old consent order that's was issued to the town, I believe in 1989. So the goal is to permanently close this landfill with approved DEP closure plan. And also another aspect of the consent order, it's not clear whether the old lagoons that operated around the same time frame were properly closed. So as part of this effort, we've agreed to look into the status of the lagoon closure, which means reconnaissance and product testing to understand whether or not they were closed properly. So what exists today is have a landfill that still exists. It's not closed. So it's heavily vegetated and has some trees over much of it. So it looks nice in that it's forested, but it's not acceptable for a landfill cap. When trees grow on the landfill cap, it degrades the cap and that is not an acceptable condition. This is a future closure obligation, so although the DEP hasn't actively enforced it, it's still something that the town of Clinton has to deal with. And it's a multi-million-dollar unfunded environmental liability. So that's what exists today. After this proposed project is completed, consent order will be satisfied, have a DEP approved closure. Our proposed approach will require no taxpayer funds. The town will benefit from a host fee from revenue generated from the project. We will have the opportunity to consider future use of the property and just in general take care of the long-term environmental liability that is the town has today. So again, we want to take care of the consent order. Establish a stable final landform construction. Take care to minimize any infiltration of waste materials and reduce potential for leachate generation. This is going to be improved stormwater management. Stabilize steep slopes that exist today in the area. Protect adjacent wetlands, water courses, and have a long-term environmental stewardship program that is part of the closure plan that's in the process of being approved by the state. So I'll turn it over to Emily to give you a little background and history and go through some of the details of the project design.
Great. Again, for the record, my name is Emily Kelting. I'm a professional engineer with Guerrero Engineering. So some site background, the site was originally a forested ravine and landfill operations took place between 1960 and 1979. Waste accepted at the site was municipal solid waste and waste from industrial local businesses. And then in 1980, the town placed an earthen cap on the site, but it's important to note that that cap was not in compliance with state regulations. It currently varies between 6 inches to about 2.5 feet throughout the parcel. Following the placement of the cap in 1980, the site became inactive. And then in 1990, DEP issued a consent order on the site, which basically calls for remediation of the landfill. Since then, the site has not undergone formal closure and the consent order issued by the state remains open. So just to run through all the permitting and regulatory agencies we had to go through, we recently received approval through the town's Inland Wetlands Commission. We received that last week. We're currently going through planning and zoning. Also through the state, we had to submit a solid waste individual permit, which included a closure plan. And we have approval on our material acceptability protocol, and we also have approval to begin stockpiling on the site. We are waiting on full approval of the application, but based on conversations with the town, we know that is, or with the state, we know that's forthcoming. In addition to that, we also recently received authorization through the state stormwater program. We submitted a construction stormwater general permit that's under the project as well. So current site conditions, the site is currently vacant and undeveloped. There's dense vegetation throughout the entire parcel. There is an existing access road up to the top of the landfill from Old Nod Road. Adjacent uses consist of forested areas, residential properties, and the DPW property is located to the south of the landfill. As I previously mentioned, there is an existing cap or cover that exists on the site. It ranges between 6 inches to 2.5 feet. And based on historic borings that were collected, waste was located between 1 to 51 feet below grade. And this is an aerial of the site. So Old Nod Road is located here, and it's hard to see, but this is the access road that leads to the top of the site. The entire site is forested, but slightly less heavy vegetation at the top of the site currently.
While you're paused, you're showing what I was gonna ask.
Okay, yep, existing conditions, topography map, grades currently are lower on the northern portion of the site, or actually around the whole perimeter, and it's lower and raising in elevation to get to the top of the site here. Like I said, we did go through the Wetlands Commission, but wetlands were flagged. That's this blue hatching shown on the site, and the green hatching shows the 100 upland review area. There's one small pocket of wetland that we have to disturb, and that was determined to be man-made, and we're only disturbing about 0.01 acres of that wetland in order to properly cap the site. Sorry.
I'll just point out the delay is due to our internet.
Okay, so proposed site improvements. Major closure activities include placement and grading of fill material to bring the site up to subgrade. We'll then be installing a minimum 2-foot cover system. Regrading the steep slopes, we'll be installing permanent stormwater infrastructure, installing erosion and sediment controls throughout the entire construction process. There'll be a vegetative, final stabilization on the site as well. This is our final grading and drainage plan here. Ultimately providing a stable long-term landfill configuration with maximum side slopes of 3:1. This is actually reducing the existing steep slopes that currently exist on the northern portion of the site, somewhere around 1.5 to 1 currently. There'll be about 1.5 acres at the top of the landfill with a 4% slope as well. And fill placement will work from south to north in 2 to 3 foot lifts and then compacting with a vibratory roller. And for our stormwater features, we'll have diversion swale, so that's this darker line that's shown. 2 different rows of these swales that'll capture runoff as it flows down. Those will ultimately flow into riprap drainage channels, which are located here. And they'll ultimately flow into 4 different detention basins that we have on the site. And those basins will be equipped with low-level outlets and overflow spillways with riprap. And key design principles associated with this design are to control runoff conveyance, reduce erosion potential, minimize sediment transport. The stormwater design was designed per the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, and post-development runoff was controlled for the 210 and 100-year storm events. And again, we're maintaining or reducing peak runoff rates, minimizing downstream flooding and erosion, and protecting the adjacent wetlands and drainage features. Yeah. And this is just the grading and drainage plan zoomed in a little bit more. So again, drainage swales that are collecting water, which ultimately will discharge into the channels and the basins. There is one little basin here as well. And we are reducing or maintaining peak flows on the site. Also wanted to know while it's loading, the basins will be equipped with a wetland seed mix.
While it's loading, will those basins be monitored in any way or tested?
As part of our construction stormwater general permit, there's weekly inspections that are required.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then for sediment and erosion control measures, we'll be installing double row silt fence around the entire limits of the project, as well as compost or mulch stocks. And that'll be installed and maintained throughout the entire construction process. There's also a few catch basins in Old Nod Road where we'll be installing inlet protection. That's a bit.
So I was trying to find it for that. So.
Also, any of the slopes that are 3:1, we'll be putting erosion control blankets down following the final grading.
Not gonna go there.
Yeah. No, I guess not. As part of our construction stormwater general permit, there's weekly inspections that are required. So we'll at a minimum be taking a full look at all erosion controls that are placed on a weekly basis, but our team will also be on site daily and inspect if there's anything to fix. There'll also be an anti-tracking pad at the entrance as well. So this is our site access route. This has been modified since the last time we presented to the commission. 2 different potential directions, one being via I-95. So the drivers will take exit 63, turn right onto North High Street, turn right onto Nod Road, and then turn right onto Old Nod Road. And then from Route 81, drivers will turn right onto North High Street, Nod Road to Old Nod Road. And I also just want to, we'll probably discuss this at some point as well as the presentation continues, but we have full control over the routes that the drivers are taking. we're in constant communication with them. So if this route is approved and it turns out the town wants a different route to be implemented, that's an easy phone call to make. In terms of construction operations, we're anticipating construction to take approximately 2 years. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And again, we have full control over the receipt of material and scheduling, and happy to be in close communication with the town on minimizing traffic on certain days and times if that's what the town would like to see. Site lighting is not anticipated as part of our construction operations. Dust control measures will be implemented throughout construction, and we'll also have a water truck on site full time. As I previously mentioned, soil erosion and sediment control measures will be installed prior to construction and maintained throughout the entire project. A tracking pad will also be installed to prevent any tracking materials onto Old Knott Road. And we also have a street sweeper that will have on. So if for some reason the anti-tracking pad is not doing its job, we can use the street sweeper while we fix the anti-tracking pad. The 4 proposed stormwater sediment basins will be used as temporary sediment basins during construction, and those will be excavated out. If there's any sediment that accumulates during construction, that'll be excavated out. That material will be placed under our cap, and then the stormwater basins will be final grading and have this wetland appropriate seed mix installed. And then site access will be controlled with a secured entrance gate, which the town DPW will also have access to.
Gonna touch on this one. So the material acceptance criteria, so this is for imported fill and cover. So this is something that the state of Connecticut DEP has approved. So the criteria of this material is intended, meets the Connecticut remediation standard regulations. So it's intended to be protective of both human health and the environment. It requires a LEP, so a licensed environmental professional, to attest to the source material, and all constituents of concern will be analyzed for and comply with the material acceptability protocol. So just to clarify, with material acceptability protocol, the acronym we're using is MAP. That is a component part of the state closure plan. Each source of material that bring to the landfill as part of the closure will be characterized prior to acceptance. We have paperwork tracking, truck registration requirements, inspections in place in order to ensure criteria. We'll have a third, which is someone that we hire to also check on the to ensure that the material is acceptable. That's something I'm happy to make available to the town. So just to clarify, so when material is sourced, there's a licensed environmental professional to stamp and sign off that the material meets the criteria in the closure plan. Second, we as a licensed environmental professionals and professional engineers, we review all the material, even though it's signed by a licensed environmental professional, and ensure that it meets the criteria. And then as a tertiary step, we have a third party that we hire to, it's just a layer of redundancy to ensure that no mistakes are made. So following closure, there is a monitoring and maintenance program. So what the landfill will look like once it's closed, there will be trees around the perimeter of the landfill, but the landfill itself, the cap, must be maintained in a vegetated grass state. And the reason we can't have more substantial vegetation is because the large root ball from a tree will break up the cap over time and essentially undo what just did in order to put the cap in place. The grass, once it's established, prevents erosion from taking place. So need to accomplish two things as part of any landfill closure. First, there's physical inspection. So a professional engineer has to walk the site. If there's any signs of erosion from the cap surface, then have 30 days to make that repair. So it could be filling in erosion rills, reseeding and putting down erosion control mats. And checking stormwater features, ensuring they're working as intended. And the last is groundwater monitoring. So there's groundwater monitoring that takes place today. So that's performed by the WPCC. As part of any landfill closure, and what is presented in the closure plan is monitoring 6 wells, which hopefully use the wells that exist there today. And if not, they'll be replaced on a quarterly basis. So quarterly basis, 4 times a year for 2 years. Then after that, assuming the groundwater quality is very uniform, then would revert back to semi-annual. That groundwater monitoring and the inspections will take place in perpetuity. So as long as the landfill exists, the state will require monitoring. Yeah, I think we hit the highlights. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So I'll go ahead and start. I know some of the issues that have been raised had to do with how much fill is actually being brought in, just to give us some idea of, over 2 years, you're talking quite a few truckloads, I'm sure, of fill. Can you contextualize that for us?
Sure. In order, are you referring to truck traffic?
I'm referring to, yeah, both the traffic and just the volume of fill.
Yes.
Yeah. We're estimating about 115,000 cubic yards of material in order to bring the site up to grade. And that is to help appropriate drainage, so we have appropriate slopes on the site, and then also to help fund the project. And in terms of truck traffic, on average, estimating about 50 trucks per day. And then I know in our closure plan, we referenced 80 to 100 trucks, and that would be on a maximum basis. But on average, estimating about 50 trucks per day over a 10-hour day, so about 5 trucks per hour is what we're estimating. And we don't, based on the setup for the site and where we're planning to potentially put a scale, we don't anticipate any queuing in Old Nod Road. There's a pretty long driveway up to the top of the landfill. And we're estimating with 5 trucks an hour, we can handle all the trucks on the site without any queuing in the road.
Just to clarify, that's actually 10 trucks per hour if you live between
Correct.
Rockville and.
Right, 5 trucks.
Go both directions.
Yes,
So there's going to be a truck going by every
that's correct.
5 to 6 minutes.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. Thank you.
All right, back to.
I've seen a lot of traffic about, conversations about the fill material, so I wanna kind of walk through that process. If you could ask questions, you could explain it to me a little bit. So you're contracting with a fill source, someone who has a bunch of fill that we need, and they have it, it's getting characterized by your group. No, that's not correct, or?
The fill supplier will hire their own licensed environmental professional to collect samples and analyze based on our material acceptability protocol.
Okay.
So we have certain frequency requirements for sampling based on how much material they want to bring in and certain constituents that they need to sample for.
That acceptability protocol is set by the CTD, the map, stuff you're discussing. Those are for, you said, environmental and human health, I believe, yep. Set out by what, like the Safe Drinking Water Act or something like that, or?
Yeah, it stems from the EPA, and then the
EPA,
state
CT.
adopted their regulation.
Department of Public
Which are
Health.
more, in some cases, including Connecticut, more stringent than the EPA regulations.
So all of the fill initially is tested to meet, not all the fill, excuse me, the licensed environmental professional tests the adequate amount based on your plan, which was approved to meet those standards. That comes to now you guys who then do that testing again.
No, so they are required to complete the testing, and there's paperwork that they fill out, including description of the source of the material. They have to collect a certain number of samples per volume of soil that they intend to bring to the landfill. And so what they provide is fill out that form. They have to provide all the laboratory analytical data to support that and sign off as a licensed environmental professional that the material meets the map.
So if it's 50, I mean, I have a background and I don't know if I could say this.
Yeah, you're,
So I have a background in environmental, I'm an environmental
Okay.
scientist and environmental lab manager. Is it every 200 or 300 cubic feet,
Yards.
yards? So 200 or 300, which one?
It's for the first 1,000 cubic yards, it's one sample every 250 yards.
Yep.
After 1,000 yards, after that, it goes to one per 500 yards.
Okay, and it's 50,000, right? So we're approximating 50,000 cubic yards is the estimated total volume of soil you need, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at a ton of samples of trying to do some video.
50,000 cubic yards comes from the stockpiling approval that was granted, not from the actual volume of anticipated build.
The
So-
volume is 115,000 cubic yards, correct?
Correct. Of potentially, right, of fill in this class, and then there's the 18-inch low permeability or the 6 inches.
Still complying with those every 250 up to a month, so a bunch of samples for about 200,000 cubic yards.
Yeah, 150, yeah.
Okay, and then you guys review it, and then there's an independent party who also reviews it. So all
Yes.
the criteria.
So once the package comes in with the laboratory analytical data and the LEP sign off, then we take all of that paperwork and we independently review it. So what they're writing on the paper, we're checking the lab reports, which come from a third party, to make sure that everything matches and.
The labs are Connecticut Department of Public Health certified labs.
Correct.
Okay, and then, I guess we're trying to say this is pretty robust process, it seems like. To me,
Yes.
in about validating the material.
Yeah, there's also so once that material is approved, then how it's transported, there's require any transportation truck to be registered. To go through the registration process, and we are able to track every load of material coming in.
And there's chains of custodies per driver.
Correct.
To understand what the load is and so on.
Correct. And then there's on-site inspections once the truck is done. That's a visual.
I'm gonna. Go ahead.
So actually I had a couple of questions for Abby and then I'll have my questions further out. So Abby, does anything from the correspondence that we received from WPCC or the Conservation Commission's recommendations, do those need to be read into record?
It would be a good idea to make sure the entire commission has had a chance to either if they have read them or if they have not read them, it's not a bad idea to have them in the record. It's part of correspondence you've received as part of the testimony.
Yeah. So I think that would be helpful if we had those in the record, so then we can address some of those comments and then people can understand where those comments are coming from.
I believe they're already in the record.
They're in the.
Oh, right. But so we don't need to read them?
No,
Oh, okay,
You can reference them, or if there's a piece you
Okay.
need
yeah, you
to
can reference them.
go back to, you can.
so to kind of piggyback off of what Zach was saying, so I don't think for the commission, I don't think the question is whether the material is being reviewed. I think the bigger question is who in this process is independently accountable solely to the town of Clinton, right? So, they've explained that they have their own process of testing and that wherever it's coming from has their own process of testing. However, both WPCC and the Conservation Commission have pointed out that the town rather should have their own independent person when the loads are coming in that then test specifically for the town of Clinton. So I think that that's something that's really important that we should be considering.
I do need to point out that, that's not within our regulations to control, it would have to come from the, town council. Town council would have to take up because we don't have the funding for it, we can't require it. So that's a town council issue, not a zoning issue.
So are we able to take up anything around involving PFAS or PCBs and other contaminants?
Anything that we can take up, what we can't do is commit the town to paying for it.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
Okay,
But
town council would have to do that. So if it's something where the town's gonna have to pay for it, we don't have the authority to say that.
but are there any specific testing requirements that apply to PFAS, PCBs and other contaminants of emerging concern?
That's a good question for the applicant. Within the existing testing that you're doing, do you test for those compounds?
Yep, so PCBs are specifically stated in the material acceptability protocol. And there was a comment. I think it was from. I believe it came from inland wetlands regarding. Averaging of samples and PFAS are, or excuse me, the PCBs are not average, so there's a maximum concentration of one part per million. Which is the minimum that's regulated by any regulatory agency. With regard to PFAS, if there's generator knowledge that PFAS could be present, then they have an obligation as part of their package to sample. And if there is PFAS, then we will be comparing it against state standards. And if it's above state standards, which are similar to any other constituent of concern that we'd be analyzing for, then that would not be permitted to come into landfill.
I just have a comment, question, clarification. There is only one testing happening. And then the rest are numbers on lab reports people are looking at.
Correct.
Okay,
So
so
the
there's a
test-
single test happening from the build company. And then that is handed by an LEP and then the lab reports are just handed around.
Correct.
At that point,
And
okay, that's what, the testing is not happening multiple times, it's a single test, well, not a single test, like. more
Right, mine was specifically about whether the town of Clinton has an independent person to test, an LEP to test for the town of Clinton, so that we know when the trucks are coming in. What we're doing our own independent testing outside of it, outside of the person who is selling their dirty dirt to,
Well,
right?
again, that additional testing would be a cost that the town council would have to approve.
Larry, we're just making sure that we do not have that.
I think it's an option, just to throw it out there, is that would go back perhaps to town council. I'm not sure where it would go if this commissioner were to deny his site plan based on those things. I don't know where that would end up, but, you know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question was, can you, give us an overview of what the testing consists of? I mean, are you looking at particle size? Are you looking at the nature of the minerals? Are you looking at heavy metals? You know, what exactly is being tested and, by what means?
Well, there's a whole host of constituents in the material acceptability protocol.
I
So
understand it, but I mean, specifically, are you looking for the percentage clay content? Are you reporting the minerals that are in it? What is the accepted, you know? Yeah, we only do every last one and every last, you know, high and low that's acceptable, but what are the major things that you're testing for by what means?
yeah, most are chemicals. The
Well, yes,
chemical,
everything's a chemical, but are you?
well, not anthropogenic chemicals, so volatile organics, semi-volatile organics.
Are you specifically determining particle size for this spill?
For the cover,
Distribution
so
for
the,
the cover. Are you determining the clay content?
for the
Are you
cover,
determining
Yeah.
which clay minerals are present?
for the cover, yes.
Okay, so you are specifically determining the percentage clay and the different clay minerals that are present.
Percentage clay, so we're doing what's called a sieve analysis, so looking at a particle gradation, and clay is part of that. But in terms of individual clay minerals, no.
You're not determining the
Correct.
individual clay
Yeah.
mineral, okay.
So in accordance with the state of Connecticut solid waste management regulations, they do have a gradation and a permeability for the upper material. So that upper 2 feet of material, that's what we're testing for those
That's
specific
in-
parameters.
That's all in appendix D, I believe.
All right, and then the other.
Closure.
Correct, yeah,
And the
that's
other
correct.
question
yes.
that I was, if you could go back to the map and point out the location of the existing monitor well.
Careful with that. Maybe? Not sure if our conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Next question.
Go ahead, Brian.
When you guys talked about testing and monitoring the groundwater, including the residential wells in the area?
No, this is the monitoring wells around the landfill, so it's just groundwater sampling. Those are the closest. The WPCC tests the residential wells periodically, and that would need to continue as well.
Well,
Is there a checking procedure to see that we know that the fill is being tested? So say 50 trucks left the site. Is there a method to verify that only 50 trucks came to the landfill? In other words, could 5 others sneak in from a different source?
No, I mean, we have a
Manifested in check?
Yep, so all the trucks are registered, and as part of the paperwork that they bring to the landfill, we're verifying that truck is permitted to come in. So if it's not on our list, it will get turned away.
The second portion, and it's really not to do with the testing, is my understanding is there's no bond posted for damage to the roads with this contract, is that correct?
That's correct.
That to me is just a major contractual issue. I know that's not something that we can do, but the idea that you're gonna have hundreds and hundreds of trucks weighing close to 80,000 pounds apiece coming, and then, you know, roughly half that weight going over these that weren't designed for they carrying that much weight. These aren't highways. And to not bond for such a thing,
is Public Works looking at that?
Yeah, so I mean, and it might be good to take a little bit of a step back and kind of talk about what the commission's roles and authorities are relative to this project as it relates to the town contract that is in place with LEA for this project. So big picture, right, 2022, the town council contracted for this closure to move forward. It's a good project. The closure of the landfill absolutely needs to happen. We know this. The pieces that we're working out right now are the details along the way. And so the contract with LEA is essentially to steward this closure process forward for the town. The part of that contractual obligation included the local permitting, which is why we're here now before you. It is within the commission's purview to ask questions about road condition, about environmental suitability, about any of those types of things that might protect public health and safety under zone. You have those authorities. I think one of the things that comes out of this is you have from CDM Smith, from the Conservation Commission, you have some recommendations for additional questions and additional information you may want in your record in order to be able to say, okay, we are confident that this is the project the town needs it to be, and that you understand, because what the project is for the closure, that includes the post-closure monitoring responsibilities that the town of Clinton will take on for itself. And so I think there's sort of a phasing of this. There's the LEA component of this and the construction phase and the oversight, the final reporting, the closeout. But we should talk also a little bit about what happens after that closure report is submitted and the 90 days that follow for the town to be in the monitoring and reporting phase, because there is an obligation there. There are costs the town will bear over time to maintain this landfill. That is simply part of it. There's an annual report that's required. Those things are all out there, and the commission is looking holistically at the entire thing. So it's what's coming onto coming into the town, what's being accepted, what's contracted to happen. Are there questions that the town has along the way that deal with the long-term status of this particular site? And I think that's perhaps some of the stuff that we should be thinking through. So there are, and again, I'm not advocating for particular actions or a direction for the commission, in terms of what things to address tonight, but I do think there's an opportunity for additional information or questions to be answered. So I don't know, you have the copy of the CDM documentation and the questions from the Conservation Commission. And as part of the public hearing, it may be useful to go through these in some detail to say, are these things the commission is concerned about? In terms of paying for it, no, you don't obviously have the authority to fund this. There are some funds available. My understanding is from the town manager that funds do exist that could be requested for a use from the town council, should there be any additional desire for road, repair and maintenance, for stormwater pieces, for other types of things. those conversations can happen and be answered for you for the August hearing. And, you know, one of the recommendations that I had, because there's so much to this, is to, you know, consider keeping this hearing open if the commission has any further questions along these lines. You're not obligated to, but it is something out there. But I do think it might be useful at some point to have that conversation about sort of what happens during construction for some of these comments that have been raised and what happens after.
Yeah, and those are two different things. What I was talking about was additional testing during construction. That's different than the ongoing, that's already been budgeted, you know, which is, it's hopefully already been budgeted for. Again, town council will let you guys tell us that. I do think we need to have, something from town council about what their feel is, their way of addressing these. The letter from, Michelle did not, address any of those points that were in the letters that we received. So we do need to have that, and so, I agree with the recommendation that we need to keep this open so that even town council can respond.
And just for another, just component of this, the public works director is looking at having a quote for a review of Old Knob Road where, so most of the route takes place on roads that are in industrial zone properties or carry traditionally heavy industrial traffic. Or have our custom large trucks, and differentiating out what this project does on those may be a little more difficult. When it switches to Old Knob Road, that's a more residential component, and so the public works director is independently looking for a quote for that review. And also right at the landfill entrance, if there's any repairs over time that might be made. Funding for that, responsibility for that, that's all something that the town would discuss it with LEA. There is a quote in your record from the consulting town engineer to review the stormwater elements of this. Again, it's something that the construction general permit committee has already been granted, so there is some stormwater oversight that has happened. So you know, sort of keep that in mind. And then again, there's other pieces relative to questions about construction phase management of the project and long-term questions that the commission should be perhaps considering in the CDM level.
So I just have I guess a clarifying question for Lorero. So the project's activities, may they extend onto property not currently owned by the town? And what closure activities may be necessary if waste is found in those areas? Meaning whether waste would extend onto private properties.
So we did complete some test pits, and we believe that there might be some waste located south of the landfill, which is also owned by the town. And we'll be installing some of our stormwater drainage basins. And as part of our closure plan, the state is aware of this. We'll be completing some additional test pits, confirming the extent of waste on the town's property located south of the landfill. And if waste is identified, depending on the extent of waste, we'll most likely be excavating that out and putting it within the footprint of the existing landfill and then capping that.
So if it does extend onto private property though, what work would be necessary?
Probably something very similar where we would do a test pit with some exploratory investigation, but based on historic borings that were collected and the data we have, we just believe that there's material located south of the landfill that might extend off of the landfill parcel.
But you won't know until you actually do it.
Well, we won't be, as of our current closure plan, does not involve any work on any of the residential parcels, just the parcel south of the landfill, which is owned by the town.
The monitoring well fails or it hits or whatever we're looking for, what happens there? What's the next steps? Who is responsible? How's that go?
You can clarify, do you mean if the sample is not within specs?
No,
or
so,
the well doesn't?
Outside of their,
Yeah.
everything's done, they have to do quarterly monitoring for 2 years. It gets contaminated, their monitoring site, so that means groundwater.
The well is
It's
contaminated.
suspected-
What you meant by fail was my question. Do you mean
Yeah,
it fails spec
criteria.
or it fails to pump anymore?
Fails criteria
Okay.
of spec, yeah.
So that may I think it would be unlikely, I'd like to explain why, but in the event that does happen, may require additional testing, including surface water testing and possibly additional monitoring wells to understand what's going on. But I would like to clarify a couple points. One, the waste material, the municipal waste, the industrial waste. Once upon a time, this was partially wetlands area, so that waste was placed there below the water table. Will remain below the water table, and the contamination that exists today, the damage is done. And what we're bringing in, one key point of the criteria of any fill we bring in meets the GA pollutant mobility criteria, which is a specific criteria in the state remediation standard regulations. And what that says essentially is that soil can exist in any aquifer type, including drinking water aquifers such as this site, without further degradation of groundwater quality. That's even without a cap. So not only are we holding to that stringent standard, but now we're putting a cap on top of it. So the likelihood any of our activity, we expect it to improve groundwater quality over time, not make it worse.
This time, I know it's getting late, but I got a lot of people here who want to talk, so I would like to open this up to public comments next. So anyone from the public who would like to talk about this, have concerns, please go forward.
Hi, as most of you know, I'm Matt Kennedy. I'm the chairman of the Water Pollution Control Commission here in town. I'm a licensed environmental professional, similar to David. And I've been working in this similar field, not the same as these guys, because these guys work and they operate landfills and are engineers in that realm. I'm more of a generalist. I work in a bunch of different realms in environmental consulting, as Zach knows. But the Water Pollution Control Commission found out about this project. We sort of knew a little bit about it throughout the years, but we didn't find out a lot about it until recently. And we submitted an email that I know you guys received. And it was basically an email to the town. Like, the engineers are doing a great job of like explaining the nuts and bolts of this. And WPCC's not providing like a punch list of questions for them to answer. WPCC provided more of originally an observation that when towns do big, huge projects, you know, you typically have a contractor, and these guys are filling the role of the contractor. And then you have an owner's representative, and the owner's representative is watching the contractor. So even though this engineering firm is doing a service for the town, it doesn't mean that they necessarily, it's just standard business stuff. You know, they have a business model that has them performing this, you know, essentially leasing a piece of land from us as a landfill, which will then, you know, receive the waste that they described as the, you know, the polluted soil. But it's just very common for construction projects to work that way. Our high school worked that way. Many projects that we've done as a town, and successful projects, which I expect this to be, have worked that way. So that was the first email that we submitted to you guys. The second thing we submitted was the WPCC's engineer is CDM Smith. CDM Smith performs all types of planning, engineering, analysis, many different things for the town, usually through Water Pollution Control Commission. And we asked CDM Smith to take a look at what is being proposed by the applicant and take a look at it from the eyes of the Water Pollution Control Commission and the things that the Water Pollution Control Commission is responsible for, which, as you can imagine, is, you know, clean groundwater and surface water, drinking water, is a bunch of things that fall under the work that we do. We have traditionally been involved in landfill, so we pay for and organize sampling under the existing order for drinking water wells in that immediate area of the landfill, for surface water samples, monitoring well samples. The town supplies bottled water to some people up there. So this is it has quite a history. From what I can tell, what they're proposing And what the town has, asked Lorero for is a plan to close the landfill, which doesn't exactly close their order. So we have to be careful about how we throw those words around. There's an order. I think that'll only be closed if all of the elements of the order are addressed. And one of the elements that David mentioned that we're looking into for us was there's old lagoons that are kind of nestled up behind the landfill, kind of off of East Shore and Knob Road. So they're gonna look into that. It's a different process and, potentially has its own hurdles that, would, it's not a landfill, but it was associated with this whole, landfill, lagoons, transfer station property historically. So, yeah, getting back to what we've provided is we've provided you with just today, it took us some time to get it together, but CDM Smith provided you with a pretty high level, these are the types of things that the town should be thinking about type of documents, only a few pages. It's not very technical. They weren't doing a technical review of these guys' work, trying to go line by line and look at it. They did a great job of that as it is. So what I would ask you as a commission, you're commissioned with a lot of broad-based power. We would hope for your support because I believe Water Pollution Control Commission and P and Z are kind of the two very sophisticated boards in the town that have knowledge that not everybody in the town has on how things work. So we would ask that you look at CDM's list of topics to discuss. I know those topics will be discussed by the town council as well. And consider those things. Don't get held up on the money aspect. We got to figure out how the town can work with our contractor to have a very successful project, try to mitigate problems that always come up in projects, so it's a good time to discuss that now. And these guys seem more than willing to answer any questions we come up with and provide solutions, so that's a great thing. They have a lot at stake in this project, they'll make a lot of money in this project, we'll make a tiny bit of money. So, they are an active participant and we need to think of them as a contractor and not our third party oversight. We just have to make sure we understand the roles, just so there's no hard feelings and there's not confusion. But that's, again, I'm as tired as the rest of you. That's the things that come to mind for me right now is those items. But do remember that we've had owners reps and have put conditions on these types of projects in the past. And I imagine if we do those things, we do it in a mindful way, we'll have a very successful project and we'll close this landfill out. And WPCC obviously is in support of this whole project. We just want to see that it's done. It's not so much done properly, but we have more, as a town, have more compliance obligations than the obligations that are being addressed by contractors. So, we just need to, it's complicated stuff, but there are experts out there that can help us with it. And that's basically WPCC's, that's our take on the whole thing. And, we're welcome to reach out to us with any questions and we can respond back. Our contractor, our engineering consultant can help as well. So, Abby, is there anything I'm forgetting here that's kind of obvious things that we talk about?
No, I think what you have in the CDM piece and the role of the WPCC is what you articulated you wanted to express, so.
Sure, so. Okay, yeah, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, just to address one item that I heard. I know that Chinzia was addressing the idea of the town having the ability to test things. That's like, that might be a rate that you guys want to hold on to, but I think more than that is your own independent, not their independent, but your own independent review of documents and, the ability to do, unannounced spot inspections and to have, the town can have a more stringent policy as the owner than what the state is requiring of the operator. So if the town was to say, we don't want any black dirt, we only want brown dirt, that the town can come up with their own considerations. You would just need to figure out what the best ones are. I can't predict what those are tonight, but having the ability to reject loads, if you're getting complaints from people in the area that are saying it smells like petroleum, maybe it passes all the tests, but you'll start you could hear things like that, and then you'd have that ability to reject loads, to ask for more information, and just to be an active participant. I know it's tough with a little town like ours, but that's kind of a follow-up on Cynthia point before, was to have the ability to be involved, whether it's not testing to stop trucks from coming in, but just testing to have our own documentation and know that we're doing things right. And that would be typically done by another licensed environmental professional who, would just act specifically on behalf of the town's best interest.
Would that be your, commission?
Our commission, yeah, our commission could have lots of roles in this, but I would think that the review of documents, because a licensed environmental professional working for the town is different than me moonlighting as one on the Water Pollution Control Commission. So that type of person could come up with a specific set of requirements for Lorero and say, how about every week you give me, a list of what came through the door this week. So they would be looking at weight tickets and manifests and, profiles, and just have like that little bit of a touch, like a weekly touch on this would make a huge difference in the town having, the degree of confidence that they should have as the owner. Because remember, right now we have a landfill. WPCC is monitoring it. We know it's not too bad, but this will be a landfill with an additional, couple hundred tons of material in it, and it's material that's the reason someone's paying to get rid of it is that it's, because they have contaminants in them. So we hope that it meets the pollutant mobility criteria that they've talked about, and that, all that is verifiable, and that we're comfortable with it. But we are taking on a liability in that we own this material till the end of time, so we do need to at least give that some careful thought along the way, as opposed to just saying it's on autopilot. That's WPCC's position on this. But if anybody has any questions for me, let me know.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
You just said something.
Yeah, what's that?
Are you saying that the dirt they're bringing in is like contaminated?
Correct. Yeah, they're not bringing any virgin material, correct me if I'm wrong, for the fill material portion.
So the fill's contaminated before they even bring it?
Yeah, the way that works, and I mean, these guys can speak to it, but in my industry, I'm looking for places to bring contaminated dirt. Because you're cleaning it up from one site, say it's a residential site, and you need to clean it up, so it's hard to find these locations. So luckily, there's people that run landfills, and these guys are one of the guys that run landfills. So where that becomes interesting is that when you're out working in the field, you do your best to sample something that's representative. I might send somebody out to do it. I might say, what'd you find? Show me some pictures. And then I end up signing the thing as the guy signing the profile. It doesn't mean every single truck is perfect or every single truck meets that. So that's why a suggestion of mine would be to have some bit of oversight where you're watching loads come in.
Town independent of the company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
We
so-
do have some money.
Just so you have your own eyes on what you're taking in, because it does meet the definition of polluted soil. So, it's something to be aware of. It will be, and there's all kinds of other things from an engineering standpoint that you guys, I think, can require from, geotechnical testing and things, just to make sure that the cap you end up with is the cap you thought you were buying, and that the, compaction is being done the way you want it done. There's a whole bunch of things, but, I think the best thing right now is to take CDM's letter and discuss it and, see what you can make it at.
Well, yeah, I think, what we need to do is take the CDM letter and ask, town council to address the things that need to be, that they need to deal with it, because, for example, the independent verification and important material section, that's a town council, project.
Yeah, we're paying for it, yeah, but seeing it as an important thing.
A lot of these things, so I need to hear from them.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know. how
I
to-
completely agree. Yeah, we should get feedback on not just these suggestions, but some of the other suggestions as well.
Sure.
From town council, because obviously these things cost money, and they're the ones that are gonna decide whether or not they're gonna spend the money.
Yeah, I think the town didn't realize that they needed, third-party oversight, or else they would have brought up a super long time ago. But you have to have voters representation on these projects. It's
I
just.
would agree.
But also the contract was signed in 2022 and there has been a shift and
Yeah.
we have a new town manager. So it wasn't this town manager who signed, it was Carl, right? So I think just even a shift with town council members. And Abby, were you here in 2022? No, so we have a town planner. So I think that there may have been people more familiar. But because of shifts in personnel and council and a manager, I think that kind of, to me, it seems it left some gaps. Things got dropped, right? So I think that's.
And you wouldn't
why-
even know you were missing it, right? You wouldn't necessarily know that you were missing something if it wasn't handed to you. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I think,
That's-
but I do have a question that
Go
I
ahead.
think that this pertains. So, I wrote down a bunch of questions. I'm just trying to go through them,
Are
but
any of this for me? Cause I'm like dancing around up
No,
here.
not
Okay.
so, so Guerrero has established a material record and tracking log, but then CDM Smith does recommend that we get clarification regarding whether the final closure records will allow imported materials to be correlated with specific placement areas, source approval, and delivery records. And why that is important is because after the 2 years, you know, like we said, we're left with this for forever. So if there is an environmental problem, you know, 10, 20, 30 years down the line, will the town be able to determine exactly what material was placed in a particular area of the landfill, where that material originated from, who certified it, what testing was performed, and when it was delivered? And then who eventually will own these records after Lareo's involvement with the project ends?
Yes,
I'm going to address all of it.
So in terms of, well, I guess first I'd like to say that we fully support if the town wanted to hire an independent LEP or another firm to provide oversight on this project, we have no issues with that. As far as the tracking is based through the truck delivery and the dumping of the material on the landfill. I should also point out, you asked about substances in the landfill. There's also physical inspection. So if there was things other than soil that aren't supposed to be there, like painted brick or plastics or asphalt or other things, that those would get rejected, and we have a mechanism to do that. So we would have the truck would have to come back, and we would segregate those loads, and they would have to be put back in the truck and taken back where they came from. In terms of where the tracking ends, it's at the time that at the point in time where we emptied the truck on landfill. Generally speaking, the material, our goal is to place it as close to where its final disposal place would be, so that we're not spending extra time moving material and putting it in a truck on the site and moving it to another area. So that's to the extent we keep track of it. The soil we're bringing in, I'd also like to clarify that it meets industrial commercial standards in addition to the GA pollutant mobility criteria. So yes, it is contaminated, but it is the concentrations in this material are by far and away significantly lower than anything that was disposed in the landfill previously. And that's part of the reason why it's accepted. So this is material that you look at brownfield cleanups on any, whether it's a site that's turned into residential use or sites that are restored to redeveloped as industrial commercial use, polluted soil stays on many of these sites. And that's really the only way that a lot of redevelopment can occur. So this is a very common to have contaminants in soil on sites such as this and many other sites throughout the state of Connecticut, whether landfill or not. This is a pretty typical condition.
You know, I don't have the expertise to comment on it, but I mean, it just seems kind of illogical to cover contaminated soil with contaminated soil.
Exactly.
That just doesn't seem to be logical to me. I don't, like I said, I don't have the expertise to really comment on it, but just the general idea doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I didn't
Well,
know
it's
what they were saying they were bringing, it was already pre-contaminated, so they brought it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
So could we talk about that for a second? I mean, please. We're looking for petroleum as mentioned, that's like a common contaminant, right? I will start from one place to start. From like airports and from PFAS, places where, you know, PFASs are commonly used, the soil's tracked from that point, right? So if it is coming from like a, I don't know, a firefighting training area or something like that, that's a common PFAS might be introduced there, then they're obligated to test for that at that point, correct? Okay, and then they're testing for heavy metals like lead, chromium, whatever. And if they're seen below certain thresholds, they're not necessarily, but they're there. They're not considered contaminated. But those thresholds are set externally by these public health bodies or whatever there. So if 100 lead is bad and 99 lead is okay though, it's still 99 lead, but it's, you get what I'm trying to get at there?
I understand that part, but again, I just have a little bit of difficulty kind of taking in that logic that, you know, it's contaminated, but not really badly contaminated.
Right.
But I think that that's common practice, right, for getting landfills, but we need this done. This is like, we have to remember that we are under consent order. We have full confidence, or I feel like I have full confidence in what Lorero wants to do or how they're doing it. I think that there are these questions, that, like I said, we need to be asking to make sure that, the town, kind of has some teeth on their side. And, having an independent tester, which they've said they're more than, happy to see. But I don't think that them bringing in quote unquote contaminated fill is outside of what normally happens at a.
Yeah, if I can just finish.
Right.
So the thing that Matt brought up about, so if 100 lead is acceptable, maybe our independent says 50 lead is what you guys should really do in this area. And that's where the interests conflict in having someone who's looking at it from a public health drinking water standard says 100's okay, 50 is really what you should do, blah, blah, blah. And that's like, I don't know, that's kind of what I'm trying to think what the comments are there.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that when you're talking about metals are mined from the soil in the first place.
Well, don't get bogged down in the contaminant. Think about oil, metals, solvents.
You're not gonna have drinking water standards in something that is, mineral in the first place.
No, but that's, again, don't think metal, think bad, like as he
Yeah,
said.
but I mean, I'd run into this, somebody coming back and saying, but your soil has copper in it, well, yeah, there's a copper mine next.
No, but if it was mined from, say, someone's oil tank.
Yeah,
blew up,
oil
they had
is
to clean that out, and there's petroleum products in the soil and that's nasty.
But metals, got to put out with the metals, yes.
Forgot about them, okay. Very hard.
Okay. I would still like to hear from the public, because I know there's other people out there who would like to speak.
Hi, I'm Diana Avino. A lot of you know me. I taught in town. I live in Boulder Lake, the Boulder Lake area. And I am here to say yes to what they're doing. We want it capped. We don't want it done well. We want closure to it. And Lorero seems, this is the fifth presentation I have been to. Okay. You guys all ask great questions. They give us great answers. We've learned. That's how we've learned about what's going on by coming to, whether it was inland wetlands or we went to their presentation, and this is our second one with you. Understand that when I was 16 years old and I was with my family at Boulder Lake, we were fighting the town of Clinton because we did not want this landfill. Okay, we fought it. They wanted to build it where it was. We brought it to a referendum vote. We lost by 3 votes. The town went and built it. Okay. We didn't want it built because we didn't believe what the town told us, that it wasn't gonna affect us. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine. And more importantly, that there were 55 families around it. So they built this with people around it. And if they were gonna build it, we wanted it somewhere else. So understand, we want you to understand us, because we talked a lot about the logistics of all of this, but you gotta understand the people in the area and how we want them informed about what's going on. And right now, they're not informed. Okay, so we got passed, all right? We did our due diligence, and you all know in 10 years, the state of Connecticut said it's gotta be closed down. It's contaminated. What was a ravine is now a mountain of a mess. Okay, it was a mess. I mean, and you had ponds coming in and bringing the 55-gallon trucks, and we saw it all. But here's the thing: we were okay when they closed it, and we were okay for a long time. And then, of course, the septic lagoons happened as soon as that got closed. That was a big mess. So we're really glad to hear that they might be able to just assure us that they were closed correctly. Okay, that's another thing. We had to investigate the septic lagoons. We trucked through. My husband took the photos, brought them to the town, brought them to a lawyer. I just want you to understand the area, the community, Old Nod, East Shore, West Shore, what everybody's been through. And then after all of that happened, and finally the septic lagoons got done, people started getting really sick. And in 1985, people got really sick. Okay, they had rashes on their bodies. They had all kinds of lung issues. Okay, asthma. And the Warren family on 77 East Shore was the first one very sick. When their well was tested, it was contaminated from, okay, they don't know. This is 1985. So what they got, what made them sick was not something you could see on the surface, something that was slowly moving under the ground. Boulder Lake and people from Old Mont, we went out and we had 13, 14 wells tested ourselves and found out that they were all contaminated. Okay, so you're dealing with contaminated wells. Obviously what happened eventually, you all know, is that the town had no choice but to give everybody water. I understand there's still people on Old Mont Road that are getting water because they still were not able to connect to the municipal water that was brought in. Okay, this is a really sad state of affairs. I mean, after what we all went through a couple of days and the municipal water wasn't any good, and all of a sudden you realize your well is contaminated, keeping it all safe is really important. So that's really what we care about. We care about them doing their job. They've been really helpful to us. We ask a question: what happens if you find a 55-gallon container? What are you going to do with it? They have helped us anytime we've had a question. We haven't been able to get all that out to the community. I know I said to Abby, can we have a statement from the town? Not from me. Okay, I know I've been to 5 of these meetings, but hasn't been anything out there for us to give to the people and say, this is important. The state wants us to do it. We got to do it. And we need closure to this. Okay, and maybe more importantly, testing of wells. Okay, when they talked about what they're going to do after, okay, this is critical. Okay, because right now, I don't know of anybody in Boulder Lake area, East Shore, West Shore, Baxter, that has had their wells tested. Okay, and we had people that could not hook up to the municipal water because of the boulders and the ledge through their houses, or it was so far away they couldn't afford to get it done. So if they have a well that's good, it's important to keep it good. And so that anything that's going to get done needs to be monitored all the time. Because what do we know? We know that it's what was underneath the ground that we couldn't see, that in the end really started to hurt people and make people sick. So we've listened to everything that they've said, how they're going to do it. We've listened to all your questions. We believe it's got to be done. Okay, we need closure to it. The town needs closure to this time, and so we're for it. Okay, I'm for it. But again, with all of your comments, it's critical. I mean, Abby's gonna have to write a whole long list of restrictions, just like all the restrictions I heard the other night when Kathy was in charge of the meeting at Inland Wetlands and they passed it. That took them about 4 pages, I don't know, from listening. But it's really important to pass it, but you guys have to figure out how to do it well, how to get closer to it. Maybe more importantly, right now, how do you get it out to the public? To tell them you're doing us a really big service. Okay, you're taking on something that should have been taken on a long time ago. I was 16 when it started. I'm 78. Boy, would I like to see it closed in 2 years and still be here and say, we did our part. We tried to fight it. We couldn't. We took care of the people. And now we're here to try to get these people to do their job. What I learned about Laurier was through my own research. Went onto the town site. I realized in 2014, these were the same people helping to do all of that investigating for an ice skating rink. Okay, so I didn't realize how long they've been working on that site and how much they know about it and how much they know about the wells. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm for it. We think it needs to be done. We depend on all of you, to make sure you have all the restrictions in place and the follow through. Okay, the follow through for when, not just when they're doing the job, for when the job is over. Because I know there are people here, from old Mont with contaminated wells, but then there are people with good ones. We want to keep those good. Okay, and that's it. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm fine. I can answer any questions.
Anybody else want to speak?
Yeah, Dennis Erickson, 101 Old Knott Road. I'm right adjacent to the area. My driveway is 25 feet from the beginning of the dump driveway. So I've been there since 88. I bought the property in 81 and built the house in 88. So I've been dealing with it. We have the city water. So I've been walking my dog up on the dump for 30 years. Seeing a lot of different things change. I just had a couple of questions, just about the general, or should I ask them or should
Yeah, ask us and then we'll.
like where my property is, there's a stone cliff, like a little buffer area. It's got some trees, but that's not part of the dump. Dump goes in a little bit farther. So are you gonna be just cleaning the contaminated area? What about the areas that are still on the property, but they have some?
What they had testified to is that they're limited to the dump property with the exception of the area that's town property on the south side, I believe.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so,
I'm on the west side.
yes, I have a map up. I can see your address. Let me, I can pull up a map that shows limit of disturbance. For the most part, our limit of disturbance does follow the property limits. We wouldn't be going on your property, but they were in pretty close to the property edge.
That's a rocky area. So some.
Trees as a buffer.
We showed them. We do show some minor grading going up to the property limits adjacent to your parcel.
Right.
But our goal would be to limit the amount of clearing that needs to be done so that we are able to maintain some type of buffer between the landfill parcel and the adjacent properties. But I do show, based on our proposed grading plan, we do show some minor grading going up to the parcel limits.
One question, so you're not gonna remove anything, right? You're just gonna add fill. Right, you're not gonna remove any of the garbage or anything,
No,
right?
I'm gonna put it on the barrels.
When they did a water line up there, I don't know how many years ago. To bring the water in, and I gave an easement. On a property. And I saw them doing the work and the bulldozer going through. And just all of a sudden it collapsed and it was a big 50-gallon barrel of gook that just popped out of the air. Out of the thing, when they were doing the water line. And you're gonna remove all those rocks too, there's all the water line, when they're blasted, they put all those rocks there. A lot of rocks there.
We'd be relocating what's necessary in order to properly cap the parcel and be able to
Right.
tie in to the grades on your site without disturbing your
Right.
property.
And then it's gonna be like a grassy field.
Yeah, it'll be a seed mix that needs to be mowed about once or twice a year.
Is it gonna be elevated or is it gonna be?
To be similar level, or is it gonna be up higher?
It'll tie in nicely to your parcel and then we have about a 3-to-1 slope in that area. So a relatively steep but stable slope that doesn't impact your property. And we do have a drainage swale that's located slightly uphill of that, so it'll be capturing any runoff that's coming down the landfill. So we don't anticipate any increased runoff onto your property.
Okay, and you're gonna put a fence there, too, you said.
And
You said something about.
during construction, there's fencing.
Oh, just for construction.
Yes,
Oh, then it shouldn't.
yes, just for safety purposes.
Thank you.
Can I follow, ask
Sure.
one more question? I'm the wife, I'm Suzanne. It
Well,
sounds like a silly
Please,
question.
please direct them enough and
I'm sorry.
then
I'm Suzanne Erickson. I just was concerned, I know nothing about details of this, but as far as like the drainage wells, are these things that are covered drains? Oh, there's a lot of wildlife,
well,
there's a lot of animals.
a drainage swell is sort of like a temporary pond, if you will. So with heavy rain events, it will fill up, but then it will, the water goes down afterward. Does not.
So it's not a covered area, it's
No.
like an opened.
It's
there's
a
lot of
rapid
wildlife
runoff from
there.
one site to another. It's to catch the runoff,
Right.
stop it, and then just let it seep in at a normal rate.
It's a-
Puddle. Well, I understand, yeah, the idea, it's just, there's wildlife all through there. I just didn't know if it's gonna be, you know, they're gonna get stuck in there or.
No.
There's a million coyotes up
Coyotes, deer, a lot of people's pets, and things all over, it's just, you
When
know,
the snow melts, spring, you should see the bones up there. Deer bones, coyote, yeah, all kinds. Sorry.
Okay, anyone else wanna speak on this project?
In the spirit of not duplicating efforts, I'd like to support everything Diana said. And what Matt said, you know, this is a situation we want to resolve. Loretto has reached out to us and been very forthcoming with information, and we appreciate it. I think Diana makes a good point that many have not. There's very few here in the community, and I think a big part of that is that the town has not really made this apparent to everyone. There are people who are very much affected by what's going on here and concerned and have a long history with it. But, you know, if you're not computer savvy and can't dig into the town's website, there's been no real sense of public outreach to get the community to buy in. But the contractor has done that, and at least to us, and we appreciate that. But, you know.
Yeah, like I said, don't, your wife's already done it.
No, I just want to summarize. This may not be the perfect plan. But if there was ever a situation where you just want the perfect to become the enemy of the good. This is a good plan. It pays for itself. We believe it's in good hands. And you know, delay can become allow the whole thing to fall apart. So I would support the efforts and support moving on with it.
At this time, I would like to, have a motion, to ask I'm gonna wanna continue this. But I think I'd like a motion to direct some questions to various offices at the here. We want, because we need to hear from Public Works about the roads. We need to hear about, potential for additional testing from town council. We need to hear, about, what the, plans are, for post-construction testing and what the
Right.
town wants to do.
I just want to make something perfectly clear on the record. I know that you said Lorero spoke with you outside of a meeting.
Yes.
Okay. But I just think that it needs to be very clear that Lorero has not been contracted by the town to work on closing the lagoons, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Lorero's scope of work is only for the landfill. They have no involvement right now with any of the lagoon closures. And I don't think should be speaking on the lagoon closures, since that is not what they've been contracted for.
Are they not contracted to investigate and know where they are and what their condition is?
I'm not quite sure, but I know that they're not involved in any, we have no agreement with lagoon closures yet. We need to, the town, I think, needs to take that on at some point whenever they're ready.
That's, you know.
Well, then that I can address that, because the town council is actually meeting, it's one of their points on their agenda for Wednesday is a discussion of the status of this, because they wanted to know what happened at this meeting. So these questions will get brought back to them, and that's one of the questions that could be asked is what is the current status of contracting on it? Should we register? Discussion.
I just wanted to make a point of clarification.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any, besides those questions, because I see Abby writing them down for us. What other questions do we want to make sure get addressed if we're going to continue this?
Along with you on the ongoing monitoring, and who's going to be developing the plan for the monitoring, who's going to pay for it, what exactly are we monitoring? Okay.
Any, because I just want to make sure if we're going to continue this, I want questions so that people can answer them. We can, I'd like to get this. So that next month we actually can.
Move
like
back.
Is there any funds available to have, to fulfill the CDM recommendation of independent third party?
That's a good question. Okay.
Yeah, I have a few, but, so what I'm guessing from what I've heard tonight is that Lorero's responsibility ends in 2 years. And then that's when the town picks up our responsibility for anything with the landfill. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding. Is that correct?
It actually ends when the project is completed, which is estimated.
After the 2 years.
That's exactly right.
So
So we wouldn't
It's
leave,
not 2 years to the
if
calendar.
the closure, was not complete by 2 years, then we would.
Right. No. What I mean, once it's closed, then the town picks up that responsibility as soon as it's closed.
But my understanding is that Lorero's
Okay.
contract to provide post-closure reports that the town would submit, and then the town. gets a-
Yeah,
Correct.
The report is it's a closure, post-closure report, so it documents all of the construction activities and all of the paperwork collecting from all the samples and all the trucks, all of that gets submitted to the state, so for the state DP for their review. But in terms of post-closure monitoring or mowing, none of that is in their contract.
Okay, so, I guess my questions would be then, what groundwater monitoring will be required? How many years? Who maintains those monitoring wells? Who inspects the cap and stormwater infrastructure? What is the anticipated annual cost? What major long-term repairs could reasonably be anticipated? What happens if the stormwater system fails? What happens if unexpected contamination is discovered? And who is responsible for corrective action and who pays? And what happens if the groundwater monitoring worsens? while the project is happening. Or after.
Just to speak as a member of the public, this is supposedly an income.
I'm sorry, we're not in that stage right now.
Okay.
So you asked for a motion to address town council with these concerns, correct? I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. And it's a motion to continue the public hearing for the place.
Yes, to continue the public hearing and to have those questions put forward to the town council.
Okay. Then we have a second from Mike. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get back to business. I'm going to ask that we, we move on to this whole business, and this is planning and zoning commission 26-9. The special exception for the shopping center, we closed the public hearing tonight. If, is this something we can, make a decision on?
I believe we can. I think we've covered the bases. I mean, I think there's some concern with the architecture, but in general, this is something, the development along Route 1, this type of development along Route 1 is something that we advocated for in the plan of conservation and development. Obviously, we're added to the grand list in the town of Clinton. I would have liked a little bit more detail on the building, but I think that, in general, this meets all the criteria for approval. I'm prepared to make a motion to that effect.
So
I'll second that.
Gonna use Abby's language.
Well,
Well, I guess one question I have about my language because of the conversation about the architecturals is whether or not under the conditions and findings sections for PZC 26-9, did you want to consider condition 11 that the applicant is required to submit architectural plans for the future building at the time that design is finalized? And then some level of finding that architectural plans shall be submitted and approved by the planning and zoning commission prior to any future zoning approval for section 4.7. So you waived that requirement tonight. I guess the question is, did you waive it entirely or intend to, or
No, we
did you
did not.
mean to?
we waived it for purposes of the public hearing tonight.
Correct, so I do think that the finding should be clarified, so there should be a finding 7. That essentially says these architectural plans are required to be submitted to pursuant to section 4.7. At the time that the new building is designed, and a condition that makes that clear. So there'd be a condition 11 about architecturals and a finding 7 about architecturals. That makes sense.
Abby, where you said
So 11, you have an 11 and you have a 7 under here.
It's written with the conditions first, and then a recommendation to adopt as the following list of the collective findings of fact.
Yep.
okay, when I get there, because this is extensively, then you can remind me of what I have to add. How's that? Because I'm gonna forget by the time I get there. Okay, I move to approve special exception PZC 26-9 to permit a shopping center at 224 East Main Street as shown on the plans entitled Site Development Plans, Commercial Redevelopment, 224 East Main Street, in parentheses, US Route 1, Clinton, Connecticut, 06413. Prepared for Alice LLC, prepared by H&H Engineering Associates LLC, dated February 20th, 2026. Revised July 8th, 2026, with the following conditions. Prior to the issuance of a zoning approval for future building permits, the applicant shall provide the zoning enforcement officer with written documentation that the Clinton Fire Department and the Clinton Fire Marshal have approved a fire hydrant location for the site, and that the building plans include EAS box installation for emergency building access. Number 2, prior to issuance of a zoning approval for the site development, documentation shall be provided from the consulting town engineer confirming that modifications shown on revised plans meet the requirements of the 2024 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual and the 2024 Connecticut Guidelines for soil erosion and sediment control. Number 3, at least 2 weeks prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall meet with the zoning enforcement officer to review construction sequencing and the installation of sediment and erosion controls. Number 4, in the issuance of the zoning approval for building permits, the applicant shall revise the lighting plan to comply with section 30.3.4 of the Clinton zoning regulations and demonstrate that no light will create glare on adjacent property or streets in excess of 0.2 foot candles. Number 5, as-built documents shall be required prior to the issuance of any zoning approvals associated with the certificate of occupancy. Number 6, 5 of the required 10 electrical vehicle charging stations shall be installed prior to issuance of zoning approvals associated with the certificate of occupancy. Number 7, no buses or delivery trucks shall be permitted to idle engines in parking areas. Number 8, trash is only permitted Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Number 9, all landscaping is subject to a 2-year monitoring and replacement period for plantings with a minimum 100% survival rate in 1 year and a minimum 80% survival rate in year 2. Landscaping shall be maintained in accordance with the approved plans thereafter. Number 10, modifications to the approved plans associated with the remaining retail development shall require an updated coastal site plan application. And number 11 is
Architectural plans for the future building are required to be submitted and approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission prior to issuance of any zoning approval for building permits for said building.
okay, I'm including that in my motion. And we adopt the following findings of fact. The final review from the consulting town engineer is required to confirm that updated drainage design modifications shown on plans revised through July 8, 2026 are consistent with the previous finding that the project meets the requirements of the 2024 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual and the 2024 Connecticut Guidelines for soil erosion and sediment control. Number 2, the project is consistent with the general conditions for special exceptions in section 11 of the Clinton zoning regulations. Number 3, the project has met the requirements of section 12.23 of the Clinton zoning regulations governing shopping centers. Number 4, the project may be permitted by special exception pursuant to section 27.2.25A of the Clinton zoning regulations. Number 5, the project is required to comply with the site lighting standards in section 30.3.4 and 33.10.13 of the Clinton zoning regulations. Number 6, the proposed application is consistent with the 2025 Plan of Conservation and Development's goal, EG4, to support the reuse of obsolete commercial sites. And number 7.
Okay, this is a little bit more complicated. Let's see, a waiver of architectural review requirements pursuant to section 4.7.4 of the Clinton zoning regulations is granted as requested for the project as currently submitted. This action does not grant a waiver for future submittals.
I'm including that in my motion.
And I will second that, so they're correcting the spelling of buses in, number 7.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just have a question. How is that enforced?
How is what enforced?
The no buses or delivery trucks shall be permitted to idle engines in parking areas.
So the reality is, if Kathy gets a complaint, she will investigate it. That's
on my own.
yeah. I mean, the reality is, yeah, it's, I mean, if it's.
That's actually a state law. You know, there's, that idling can't happen. I think it's for more than 3 minutes or something.
Yeah, if there's ever a problem, you know, hopefully we work close in hand with folks to sort of deal with that, but that's a hard one to catch. But it's written in the regs, so we want to make sure it's.
Cool, just wondering, yeah,
Yeah.
no further discussion.
Yeah.
In that case, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Now we need to do the coastal site plan, for this. You wanna read that one?
Sure, I'll read it. I'd like to make a motion to approve PZC 26-10, which is the coastal site plan. I move to approve the coastal site plan, PZC 26-10, to permit a shopping center at 224 East Main Street as shown on the plans titled Site Development Plans, Commercial Redevelopment, 224 East Main Street, in parentheses, US Route 1, Clinton, Connecticut, 06413, prepared for Alice LLC, prepared by H&H Engineering Associates, LLC, dated February 20th, 2026, and revised July 8th, 2026, with the following conditions. At least 2 weeks prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall meet with the zoning enforcement officer to review the construction sequencing, the installation of sediment and erosion controls. Number 2, as-built documents shall be required prior to the issuance of any zoning approvals associated with a certificate of occupancy. Number 3, the modifications to the approved plan shall be required and updated coastal site plan application. And adopt the following collective findings of fact. The Connecticut DEEP LWRD has found the application to be consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Plan. Number 2, the project is consistent with section 18 of the Clinton zoning regulations. Number 3, the project as conditioned incorporates reasonable measures to mitigate potential adverse impacts to coastal resources and future water dependent development activity. And number 4, the proposed application as conditioned is consistent with Connecticut General Statute 22A-92.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Name, motion carried. Okay, next on the agenda is committee report. I'm going to ask that we're gonna skip this for tonight and go right to adjournment if there is no objection. You object? Okay, all those in favor of going to adjournment?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned at 10:25.
I actually do just have a question for Abby. If we have more questions that we weren't able to like get to you, that we want to get to different